Welcome everyone to the Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight. This is not being filmed on Sunday because I got to do these in advance for GDQ when I'm gone. But it'll be uploaded on Sunday, so it'll all make sense to YouTube people. But anyway, episode 15, we got JSR. How's it going, man?
Good. I'm doing great, and I'm very happy to be here. I really appreciate you having me as a guest.
No problem. Trying to find everyone I know that I've met at GDQs and stuff makes talking a lot easier if you know the person. So
Yeah, we've met, I think, at a couple of the events, right? Like
yeah,
we were kind of chatting about that before we went live. So it's one of my highlights of GDQ is being able to go and see all of the friends that you haven't seen in a long time. And ironically, we opened the show with me talking about GDQ, and I'm not actually going to this one, which is kind of
yeah.
sad, but still I'm really excited for you and all the folks that are going, and as jealous as I am, I can't wait to see all this year's games list is so good, dude.
It's really good, yeah. A lot of retro stuff. You don't see that a lot anymore.
Yeah, they've really kind of compartmentalized it. I mean, they have like awful block, and then they have like the popular stuff, but last few years it's been more of a niche than anything. And I'm really happy that they're still trying to embrace what kind of got them started in the first place with the retro scene. It's this year's games list is very, very exciting. It's the most excited I've been for a games list in probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, so if you're watching this episode, GDQ just started. If you're watching it on
Mhm.
YouTube, at least. So, go watch it. Some exciting stuff going down. So, but yeah, we can talk more about GDQ later. We should start with the obvious first question, which is how'd you get started with this fun hobby?
Well, speedrunning for me kind of, a lot of people they have the story like, oh, I saw so and so running a game I was curious about, or I saw a speed run. Um, my story's a little different. It actually kind of started with my ex girlfriend, who is a big retro gaming enthusiast like I am, and I have a big collection, so she would come over and play games. And one day she challenged me to try a speed run, and she asked me if I could speed run The Legend of Zelda because I was just talking about games that I was good at, and I attempted it, and we had a lot of fun. And years later, I started a podcast, which is long since over,
Hmm.
but that's actually how I got my Twitch channel and everything started was through a podcast I used to do. And um, we were trying to live stream to get people to be able to ask questions during the podcast and maybe do some other stuff with the three of us. And so we started live streaming, and somebody came in and asked if I was a speedrunner, and I was like, no, but there was this one time, and that's where the I caught the bug.
Hmm.
And 7 years, almost 7 years later, it'll be 7 years on June 9th. So um
Coming up.
you know yeah, it's been a heck of a ride, man, and it's changed my life in every
Mhm.
way you could think. And I'm just I love it. I love the community. I love speedrunning, the challenges that it gives you, as not only the actual challenge of beating the game quickly and challenging yourself, but like especially something I learned when I was doing the AVGN trials was being faced with something that feels insurmountable, like just something that when you're looking at it, you fear it.
Mhm.
Whether it's a game that's really difficult or a long speed run. And when you get on the other side of that, it really does feel like a sense of achievement I've never experienced in anything else.
Yeah, it's definitely very unique. Almost. It's crazy how popular it's gotten too. So, well, I guess people like fall into that whole unique style of gameplay because long plays and what do they call it, let's plays and all that have been popular for a while. It's like, oh, a new form of gaming content, and now it's blown the hell up. So it's cool to see. Feel like a lot of people feel similarly about it. I mean,
Yeah,
speedrunning changed my life too when I found out about it 2017. Coming up on 6 years. That's not till later though. But long time and plenty of time to go. So
I
we'll see
love
what happens.
how I think for me, like what I love the most about speedrunning is that it allows you to breathe life into games that you may have already played to death.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, the game I'm probably most known for is The Legend of Zelda, and before I'd ever attempted a speedrun of that game, I'd already beaten it so many times. I knew where everything was. I knew the maps and I knew the strategies. It wasn't fun for me to play that game anymore. It
Mm-hmm.
was more like every couple years I'd fire it up and play it and be like, eh, you know.
Yeah.
But when you present it as a speedrun, um, or like other variants of what you would call speed gaming, like randomizer or challenge runs or whatever, um, it presents it in a different light and it allows it to stay fresh. And that has allowed me as a retro enthusiast to continue to enjoy the library of games that I prefer. Not saying modern gaming is bad, but there's not as many experiences that I've had in modern gaming that really hold on to me like a lot of my retro experiences do. Even when it's a game I haven't played until recently. Like there's a lot of retro games I've never played, and then I do experience them. And they still just something about those older games. Like, I don't know if it's charm or challenge or the restrictions that they had to work around or what it was, but speedrunning retro games is just really opened a whole new way for me to continue to enjoy these classic titles. And I love it.
Yeah. I'd have no reason playing Mario anymore if it wasn't for it. Well, obviously the new games, but like the old ones. Yeah. It's perfect. Or if you get sick of your game, but it's your favorite, oh well, now you can play it indefinitely, and there's always something there now. That's just how it works. And yeah, I'm definitely into the retro scene more too. I don't know why. I'm someone who likes like the whole history of video games and how they've progressed over the years, but I think it is kind of like, that everyone has a sort of nostalgia for the classics, and there's limitations they had that you like appreciate what they were able to do with the limitations back then. And
Hmm.
yeah, I just find that a lot more interesting before the whole billion dollar billion-dollar AAA game studios or whatever. Just a few group of nerds working at a small office, and they made one of the greatest games of all time. It's cool to think about.
Like there's something about when I see a retro game that has something really cool. Like for example, when you see like a Ninja Gaiden 3 being played, and you see the parallax and the cool sprites and the colorful graphics, or a game that sounds really good on the Nintendo, like Castlevania 3 on the Famicom. What they were able to accomplish with these. Obviously, modern technology squashes it, but there's something about seeing that their solution to working around what was at that time obsolete already, and being able to make a forward progressing experience that they probably shouldn't have been able to. um, those kind of challenges and overcoming them furthered video gaming so much more and so much faster than anything we see nowadays, just because they kind of, I'm not gonna say they've gotten lazy. I don't think that's the case. I just think that it's kind of like what they say about Hollywood and the music industry as well. It's like people are afraid to take chances on new IPs and new ideas, and that's why when there are new ideas, they blow up, like Among Us or Untitled Goose Game, or even something with like the battle royale stuff, which started what 7-8 years ago, and now it's like the biggest genre. I mean,
Yeah.
like I wish that there were more of those AAA companies that were willing to do that, because that's what we used to get. We
Hmm.
got Sim City, or we got Pokemon. That was a crazy idea back in the day, and now that's one of the biggest franchises in gaming history.
I think it's the
So
biggest
I just wish.
franchise in the world,
Mhm.
just straight up. So yeah,
I
yeah, I
just
want
wish
Mario
that those
35 back.
companies would just. I just wish they would take more chances, man.
Hmm.
I want to see some more cool stuff like that with like modern technology. But yeah.
Yeah, all the new like unique ideas you see now are like indie, and they don't have the budget that the big AAA people do, and it's like a shame. You wish that more like AAA things would just give the indies the money and be like, here, make something sick, because we sure as hell won't.
Or at least let the gaming community maybe have input.
Yeah.
Like I mean, we don't need another Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed, or like even the sports games and stuff. They continue to pump these sports games out that don't have any soul,
Mhm.
and the sports fans, they gobble it up because they need their fix. They need their sport game, and And I love sport games just as much as anyone else, but it's gotten to the point where I know exactly what I'm going to experience when I boot up an NFL game or a baseball game or whatever. There's just nothing there that's going to make me excited outside of just seeing the new roster.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot more indie games, like you were saying, that try to do things differently. And I miss the old days, man. Like give us a new experience, because that's what's going to keep gaming in the forefront of people's minds. Because you notice the gamer population, its average age is getting older as time goes on, and that's not because a lot of the younger kids are just kind of casual gamers now. They don't see it like we do, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a group of younger people that get
Oh
it,
yeah.
so thank God for them. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, there's some, I don't know the word for it, but just lackluster stuff. They're just like, yeah, there's that again. I've seen that before. Looks the exact same, whatever it is. Like the 15th sequel to something. It's like, yep, there it is again. I want
I
something
am
new.
excited. I am excited for the communities built around games like Minecraft or Roblox, or those types of games that do draw in those younger kids, the younger adults, that they might be the ones who come up with those fresh ideas later on. And that's kind of what I'm hopeful for, is just to be able to see fresh ideas, fresh IPs, or these big companies to release the IPs that they've been hoarding for years that they no longer use, and let them have a chance to have those fresh minds. Take a crack at Bomberman
Hmm.
or Bonk, or like, for example, Silent Hill. I mean, the whole thing that happened with Konami. I mean, we don't have to get into it, but Silent Hill's been dead ever since, and now they're just talking about bringing it back. It's like, I don't know. I wish that there was more flexibility in that, but I understand money talks. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
why I love retro. It's so simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's another thing. Like it's nothing complicated about it. Well, I mean, some games have their complex, surprisingly stuff, but yeah, you get an old console, you play the game, you're right into it. You don't have to go through like an hour of loading screen setup, settings, player creation, whatever. You just plug it in and you play. There you go.
Mhm.
There's your game. Very, very easy,
But you don't
which I
have to
like.
download the game to your hard drive and make space.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't have to patch all the glitches. That's what I love about it, man. They can't patch those glitches. Like
Mm.
that's what makes speedrunning fun. Like they can't. You learn all the different tricks, and then suddenly there's a day. How many years has it been since Mario One's come out? Like 30, almost. That's been 40 years. Jeez, almost
Almost.
40 years. Wow.
Mm.
Don't tell nobody.
Mm.
I still feel like I'm 30. I sure don't look it though.
Yeah, could have fooled me. Yeah,
But
long
yeah,
time.
I just love that that the speedrunning community is just one way that we keep those games alive, though. Like we find new categories, we find new ROM hacks, we find new ways to just breathe life into these games. That I mean, I've been playing Zelda 1, Zelda 2, A Link to the Past for years now, and I'm still not sick of them. I mean, I probably couldn't play them casual ever again, but I mean, I was kind of already at that point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, you just have a reason, a motivation to play it again. If you're sick of it, and it's like, oh, you can always improve, so you can always play it. So it's like, oh, there you go. Now your favorite game, you can play it forever and have a reason to. You don't just have to play it for the 100th time and be like, well, I know what I'm doing. Here we go again. So it's like,
and
here
then
we go again, but there's purpose with
and then
fewer.
of course Nintendo finds a gold mine, like they were saying in chat with Mario 35,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Oh my God.
don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they're thinking.
It's the
I love
saddest
Nintendo,
thing.
but they frustrate me at the same time.
N- yeah, I love Nintendo games. I hate Nintendo. I think that's about how I feel. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know what their with their like online service. It's like oh, here's the shittiest online anyone's ever released, and anytime we release like an online only game, we're gonna get rid of it within like a year. Like, what is it? Pac-Man 99 now is dying. It's either that or Tetris, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's Tetris. Tetris is too big, but yeah, it's like, okay, stop getting rid of this, please.
They
These are
finally
you're
get
making
something popular, and then they just, we're good.
yeah, popular like new idea, especially when people already had that idea, like in indie developers releasing it for free or whatever. They shut it down. It's like, nope, you can't use our IP, but we'll do the same thing and then get rid of it ourselves.
Mhm.
Okay, love Nintendo. They're great.
And they're creative, and they keep the game industry fresh, but at the same time, they do stuff that frustrates us, and um, just yeah, I don't know. The modern gaming industry is an enigma. I don't think I'll ever quite understand.
Yeah, I hear that like uh Nintendo hates Nintendo fans. Just like they only really care about the casual audience. Be-
So it feels
like,
like.
yeah, just whoever can make all of our games like E for everyone for the kids, get everyone make the Wii. It's for everyone. I mean, it was a good console, but like and that's their marketing. Just make it appeal to everyone. But if you have your fans like, oh, we don't care about them, they'll just keep giving us money. We can do whatever we want. And I mean, they're right. It's just a shame that they're right.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, they'll release Skyward Sword HD on the Switch and make it. I think it was 60 or maybe even $70 when it came out. I don't remember.
Ugh.
Like, but they do it in a way where fans want it.
Mm-hmm.
They can't resist. And then, because they do make good games. I mean, you got to give it to them. They know how to make video games, and you can't say the same thing about most of the big AAA title developers anymore. They just pump out the same stuff over and over. So at least we're getting quality games, if nothing else.
Yeah, that's like the only good thing anymore. At one point, I'm gonna be scared to like upload my speedruns to YouTube. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you're not playing the game how we want,"
Hmm.
taking it down. But, like, I mean, I've ran ROM hacks. I mean, to them, that's punishable by death. They already take
Yeah.
down videos for for modding purposes. So I'm just waiting for the inevitable bullshit to come through.
You're playing randomizer? Banned.
Bans for life. You can't be a fan if you're modding
Yeah.
your consoles and games. That's just jail for you. How dare you? Yeah, I mean, the thing I'm scared of is I forgot what game it was. It came out recently. It was some horror game. Some people know, but they like there was like the disclaimer, and it said like I think it was like a solo game, but there was like online functionality or something, and the disclaimer said something like, you know, if you modify the game or whatever, you can get like banned, terminated, or if you don't play the game the way we want you to play it, or something. Like
Well,
glitch, if you use a glitch, you could get banned or something. If you, it's like, okay, can we not go this direction? What are we doing here?
yeah. Like the thing is, they don't understand that the community thrives on that kind of creativity. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe not so much piracy per se, but like randomizers, ROM hacks, and in general, just the preservation that we still do. That a lot of games would have been lost to time had the folks in the retro community not gone out of their way to preserve them. Like just for example, the Satellaview games,
Mm-hmm.
the 64 disc drive games, the different versions of games that are like would have been because Nintendo's never going to re-release those. I mean, I honestly can't believe that they never put Virtual Boy on the 3DS, even though it's not the best thing ever. I
Yeah,
mean, it literally is a match made in heaven. I mean, why not,
I
right?
was saying this in some other episode I did, this exact point. So yeah, like the 3DS Virtual Boy, perfect. Like they can make it work. I mean, it's literally the
And
3D thing using the same kind of technology. Well, not the same technology, but like the same way the 3D is. effect is made. So like, yeah, it's got to work. I have a Virtual Boy emulator on my virtual reality headset. It works. It can work.
It's definitely something that like you wonder why they don't do it. There's probably a reason, but I mean, and I'm not saying it's going to make them rich, and that's probably why they won't do it.
Yeah, of course.
But another example being like the BS Zelda games that have never been officially released in North America, which the retro community have been able to not only preserve, but we've found ways to speedrun them. We've shown them off at GDQ. We recently had, I think, at AGDQ, we had the BS Zelda race. And how cool would that be? Because originally that game was broadcast over the Satellaview in a way where you would download the game and then you would start playing it at a specific time, and the audio track was streamed. And it had like a voiceover and CD quality audio, which was pretty cool for the Super Famicom. And they could do that in a way right now on the Switch. It wouldn't even be that hard. I mean, why wouldn't they? Because it's too much work. I mean, where was that creativity that they used to have in the 90s, which they just, I don't know, maybe they just took it for granted. Maybe it's because Hiroshi Yamauchi is no longer with us, or Satoru Iwata. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it just kind of bums me out that they used to have that really creative edge, regardless of whether or not they were making really ridiculously silly plays in the 90s. They at least were trying, and
Yeah.
they do still make creative stuff. It's just I wish that they were more like they used to be in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely still creative. I mean, the Switch kind of took off in its own thing. Like now there's the Steam Deck and some other companies are making their own versions of it. So they have good ideas, but yeah, they're definitely like money, money, money. Whatever gets us money. Oh, the Wii U failed. Now we can be creative and get something that
Yeah,
sells. Oh, that's doing well. Oh, now we're good on money again. Let's just pump out whatever. Although apparently the Zeldas they're doing seem to be good. I don't play
yeah.
Zelda games, but it sounds like Tears of the Kingdom is insanely good. So that's good, I guess.
I haven't even opened my copy yet. It's still sealed.
Yeah.
And the reason is because, well, for one thing, I wanted to kind of stream it when it came out. I was like, oh, I want to play it, but I
Hmm.
kind of wanted to stream it. But obviously, everyone is streaming it, and the people who aren't streaming it are probably playing it and don't want spoilers. So I'm kind of waiting for that reason.
Yeah.
But also, um, when it came out, I was right near the end of the AVGN trials, and I really wanted to focus as hard as I could on getting that project done because it's been, it was hanging over my head for 5 years, and
Hmm.
I was able to finally finish that up last week. I can't believe it's only been a week, but
Yeah.
um, getting that out of the way, it was kind of like my priority. Now I'm kind of freed up for the first time in 5 years, so it's like now I can play whatever I want. It's kind of neat.
Yeah. Uh, well, I think we shit on Nintendo enough at this point. So let's talk about Zelda 1 speedrunning because that's how you started, right?
Mhm.
So, uh, when did you start? Like 2016?
Yeah. Officially, my first submitted runs were in, I want to say, June or July of 2016. Um, I got into it. I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with the game, and ran it as one of my main, things for a couple years. And then, after I reached my goal time, which at the time was a sub 29, I decided I was done, and I kind of just moved on. Because I was doing the AVG and trials, I was focusing on that, and also kind of just having fun with randomizer and doing other things. And then in January or in December of 2019, a Zelda One runner was in my chat and mentioned that he had the idea of trying to get the first bomb in level 3 frame perfect.
Hmm.
But nobody had ever really looked into it. The closest that I had ever seen was years ago when Darkwing Duck had tried to look at getting the first bomb. But whether he didn't know about the frame rules or had just never figured out a way to make it consistent, we never saw anything from that. So I just booted up the game right there, and I kind of just started messing with it, and I discovered not only were their frame rules, but it was very feasible for a person to hit them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was noticing the patterns in the overworld were staying the same. And once I figured that out, I thought to myself that this is probably possible to manipulate that first bomb. And because I mean, with Zelda speedrunning, the first bomb in level 3, for years, and even for people now that don't use the manipulation, you would just go into level 3 and kill a Darknut and hope you got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And 41% chance of that drop. So you were at best running 41% of your attempts, and that really was unrealistic. I'd say you were resetting 5 or 6 times before you get a run.
Mm.
And then, of course, now you're relying on RNG to get through the rest of the dungeon. Once I discovered that you could get that first bomb, I decided to see how far it could go. And not long after that, I realized you could manipulate pretty much not only level 3 in its entirety, but I've been able to map the manipulation all the way to the recorder, which is about a third, little bit more than a third through the game. But no one else has gotten it through level 4. I got through level 4 one time. It's extremely difficult.
Mm.
But the reason I mention all that is that kind of got me back into Z1, discovering the manip, and um, it's definitely it's reinvigorated my love of the game because it doesn't feel as grindy to speedrun it anymore. It doesn't feel as awful sitting there running the game. It feels like it's more in your hands now.
Mm.
So yeah, it's kind of allowed me to get back into it. I'm enjoying it again. I'm currently, I think, 6th on the leaderboards, though technically I'm 7th. I know Fastat CC has a better time than me by 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just starting to get back into runs because of the recent Zelda 1 tournament, which I was the runner-up in. I just lost to Green Mario, who literally world recorded the day before we raced.
Mm.
The guy's a machine. The
Yeah.
guy's a machine, man. But yeah, it's a good community. It's a really awesome speed run. It's a difficult speed run, but of all the games I've learned at this point, it's probably the one I still think is my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy that you can like manipulate the entire first dungeon at least that you go into.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know when I heard about it, like that wasn't a thing. Like that game was just like very RNG heavy, and you have to like map out what enemies you kill for certain items, and it's a whole complicated mess. But you can just go through that whole thing and like, yep, I can do this whole thing the same way every time in a game that's
It
was RNG. So it's interesting.
it has the added benefit of being pretty fast. In fact, I believe Green Mario has a 204 or 203, which is the fastest we ever did. It's not really viable to go that fast, but I mean, still, I mean, when you were doing non-manip level 3 speed runs, you were rarely getting sub 310, or sorry, sub 210.
Mm-hmm.
And that was again, a grind that you would have to play for 2 or 3 hours to achieve, unless you got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's in your hands. It's no longer RNG. It's completely on the player. Oh, we may have a dog cameo here. Hi, buddy.
Ooh.
It's completely on the player now to execute. And if you do, you're gonna get a run, and you're gonna get your bombs, and you're gonna get out fast. And come here. Say hi to everybody. No, you're up. Come here. Oh, there you go.
Dog.
um it's kind of on the player now that they can get that. So it's more for the consistency and the amount of runs you can get, I think, is what really changed Zelda 1, because that stopped making the amount of attempts it would take to get a run lower, or it allowed them to get lower. And now we see the speed run now. It's a 27:47, which is
Mm-hmm.
incredible. I mean, before the manip, I think the record was 28:17, and that was pretty ridiculously optimized.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of cool to see the effect of the manip and what it's done to the game.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like 30 seconds. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that manip, like it eliminates the resetting and the luck factor, but
Mm-hmm.
it only saves like what 10 seconds over the average, maybe even less.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's
the
more
rest of
just
that.
like the fact that we can even do it in races now. It's gotten that consistent that we can
Mhm.
manip in races, and for the most part, you can get the manip almost every time, and that just means now it's in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So you do 3 or 4 hours of runs, you're gonna get a good shot, and that's exciting because it used to be Reset City, man. I think I have over 20,000 attempts in that game, and probably 19,000 of them ended 20 seconds in.
Yeah. Trust me, I
So,
know what that feels like.
so yeah, it's just, but it's a good speed run, man. It's got a huge skill ceiling and just enough RNG where it's not too bad, but it's still got that unknown factor of will this be the run? You know, there's no like the run is not over till Ganon is dead, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
makes it exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely very cool. I've been watching it here and there throughout the years. I've still never like played the original game though, so I need to do that. And then I'd enjoy it a little
It,
more, I think.
it's rough if you play it without any of the original resources. A lot of people try
Mm-hmm.
to play that game 100% blindly. And they you can do it. It's definitely achievable. It's not as cryptic as some NES games, but it's rough where you'll have a pretty long stream on your hands if you do it all in one session. The game came with a manual that had enemy descriptions, item descriptions, a little bit of maps, and then it came with a fold out map
Mm-hmm.
that showed you a lot of the locations in the overworld. So there is information that I feel runners that players that are going to play the game without like a walkthrough or without any of the more detailed stuff. There's still enough information that the game was provided with. So if you ever decide to do it, I would highly recommend doing that and just getting the true 80s experience because it's a doozy, but it's a rewarding experience, I think.
Yeah, when I play retro games, I read over the original manual first. So I don't really care about blind playthroughs so much, but yeah, if I get stuck, I'll cheat or something. If I'm like, well, I'm not having fun, I don't know what's going on, so
Yeah,
I'm just gonna look it up so I can move on. But
I
yeah,
mean at the end of the day, you got to be having fun, right? That's the entire reason we play games. I mean, even if you're a salty speedrunning mess and you look visibly angry, we're still having fun for the
mm,
most part. Otherwise, we
yeah,
wouldn't be here. I think the majority of speedrunners, even when they're not having fun, they're still having fun.
yeah. I think if you're speedrunning and you're not having fun, why? Why are you doing that? So
And
I don't think that exists because you wouldn't be doing it.
I definitely think I have a lot more fun these days.
Hmm.
Um, More because of what I experienced in the trials, like the um before that I'm not saying that I was any more serious than I am now, but I took myself way too seriously. I think I felt like everything had to be perfect and there was no leeway, like I worked really hard. I still work really hard, but I feel like I've kind of loosened up and am allowing myself to just enjoy the ride more so than I used to be. Like it's not just about getting the time that you want to get, just experiencing what speedrunning has to offer. And it's definitely something I didn't used to have, and I'm very grateful that I can still speedrun and enjoy it today.
Hmm. I guess we should bring it up because you've talked about it a few times, but the trials, we should mention what it is. I feel like that's a pretty big deal, especially since it just finished. Perfect timing.
Yeah. Um. So the Angry Video Game Nerd Trials of JSR are were. It's so weird to say were
Yeah.
my 5-year quest to speedrun a game from every episode of the Angry Video Game Nerd. Um, I ended up capping it at the end of 2020 because otherwise this thing would never end. It would
Hmm.
I would have another 30 games to do right now. Because when I first came up with the concept, he was kind of it felt like he was winding down, like he was going to retire.
Hmm.
So I felt like, okay, this is a great way to pay homage to James Rolfe because the Angry Video Game Nerd is a character that's been, I found him pretty early on when he was like or it was like 5 episodes in, something like that, um, on MySpace back in the day,
Oh
and
wow.
um, just following him through the years, I can relate a lot to his brand of humor. The game reviews just always not only made me laugh, but I related to a lot of his points. I mean, even if I didn't, crap on the game afterwards, I just
Yeah.
um, it was always entertaining, and for me, it was like a way to pay homage to him. But also, the prospect of speedrunning the list of games that he had reviewed over the years meant I really had to expand my horizons as a speedrunner, because at the time I'd only done a few dozen games. Most of them were Zelda games or Zelda categories, and like even just for example, Mario 1, it was a game I probably would have never speedrun
Mm.
if it hadn't been for the trials. But because of them, I was able to experience it, and I do enjoy it. It's a great speedrun. Um, that's kind of like one of the takeaways I have is looking at the list of 200 games, not just NES games, but Game Boy games, N64, Super Nintendo, Genesis, PS1, 2, Xbox, Dreamcast. Like, there's so many different consoles and in genres that I would have never played. Like, I would have never speedrun Doom
Mm.
or Seaman on the Dreamcast. You have to really make sure you say that right.
Mm.
or
Yeah. Don't want to get banned.
or um Virtual Boy.
Mm.
Like being able to experience the different genres and consoles that you wouldn't have um allows you to learn new ways to experience not only speedrunning in itself, but how to learn them, how to practice them, the different challenges each genre and each like, controller has. Each experience kind of felt like a puzzle,
Mm-hmm.
and really helped me to learn patience and perseverance and discipline. And over time, it allowed me to loosen up and just kind of, like I said, just enjoy the ride. Like, just have fun with the entire process, and just I think that really allowed not only me to flourish, but helped my community grow a lot too.
So 200 games in 5 years, and those are all speed runs. Like you're not just
Mm-hmm.
playing them.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
it's a crazy project.
it was definitely something that if I had to start over right now, I would have second and maybe third thoughts.
Mm.
It took 2,500 hours
Mm.
of actual gameplay, like not like actual consoles on, controller in my hand gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Over 15,000 resets, and that said, though, just I don't regret it at all. I feel like it was a project that really allowed me to expand not only as a speedrunner, but it made me a more patient human being. Like I feel like I'm a better man today because of the experiences I've had to go through. There's been some rough ones. There were some games in there that had me on the brink of insanity, quite literally. In fact, in
Mm.
one case, I've broken controllers. I've thrown games across the room. But at the same time, though, I've had a lot of triumphs, and I've had a lot of positive experiences, world records, and just overall, it's the achievement I'm in my entire life. It's probably my greatest achievement. It's something I look at that I'll never forget to the day I die.
Yeah, it's definitely really sick. It's crazy to see it's done. Like just finished too.
Yeah,
Although,
this is going to air this upcoming Sunday, so that'll
mm,
be 2 weeks to the day after I finished.
mm, crazy. Although, if you ever want to go back, he's still making videos, so there's a few more to go.
Yeah, I think there's probably like 20 or 30 more now
Oh my
that
god, already.
I've I've considered it. I've also considered going back, and because a lot of the episodes that he did had more than one game.
Hmm.
Um, and so because I didn't want to speedrun every game because the list would have been 500-600 games long, and some of them he only mentions for like a few seconds.
Hmm.
So what I ended up doing as like my own rule was to pick one game, excuse me, from every episode. Usually the one that was either the most iconic from that episode, in my opinion, or the one that he focuses on the most. In a few examples, the one that I felt like I wanted to learn the most. And there's other games in those episodes that I could go to. But I think now that they're done, having all those experiences and all those games under my belt, and I've realized it's not too terribly difficult to derust them. There's a lot of games I want to go back to and grind down. For example, all three Mario games that I learned, the NES Mario games, Mario 3 in particular,
Hmm.
um, I wanted to get a sub hour. That was my goal. and in Warpless.
Yeah.
And I got in my PB, which is 1 hour and 10 seconds.
Mm.
In that run, I got 0 hands and made it to Air Force and died. It ate my
Mm.
input on one of the jumps.
Got
I
it.
walked right off the edge of one of the planes, and then I got 3 hands on the way back. And
Incredible.
so when I finished that run, I said, "Am I?" And this is kind of one of those like things of like personal growth that I had over time. Because back when I first started the trials, obviously I didn't hit my goal time. I gotta keep going. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I gotta keep running the game. But at the end of the day, that's only really proving it to the folks that care about your place on a leaderboard. Which I mean, sub hour isn't necessarily that impressive in the Mario 3 community as a whole. Um, so like, really, I'm only trying to prove it to myself, and I think that run is still something I'm very proud of. You know, one eaten input doesn't happen. I mean, probably I get all the way through, maybe I don't, but I knew that I could do it. So it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, why am I going to beat my head against the wall to try to get another run when I've got literally another 100 games left from that point? Like, I might as well just move on. And I think that's kind of been one of my big takeaways is just leaderboards are cool. And I love that there is a cohesive spot that we can use as a community to measure each other's skills and accomplishments in speedrunning, but it's not all about where you're at on a leaderboard, in my opinion. Like, I feel like your personal experience trumps that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people you meet in each game's community and the friends you make, and um, being able to overcome yourself, because that's really what speedrunning is. It's not you versus the community, it's you versus you.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, you're the only one that matters. So if you're happy with what you've accomplished, then the heck with what everyone else says. Do you?
Yeah. That's been a big learning experience for me personally. When I was like at my peak, I'd always, I had like 30 world records at one time, and I was like, okay, I can't lose any of these, and if someone takes it, I gotta take it right back. I just don't care anymore. People get better. I got to do more stuff, so it's just like I had all of those. So I just made a list of every record I've ever had, and it's just like I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy with that. I still get more, but like I don't like
Yeah.
get upset anymore. It's like kind of cringe to get upset about stuff like that. I've realized, but I mean, it's a learning experience. It's not something you know how you're gonna react when it first happens, and you kind of have to like overcome the negativity that you inflict on yourself because it's all in your head, really. Like no one really
Mhm.
cares, so you just be proud of what you did, not if it's still like at the time. So yeah, learning
Funny you
experience,
mentioned
but
that.
yeah. What?
I did the exact same thing with the records I've made over the years, like because like especially once they fall, like it's hard to keep track of what was a record or what you had to accomplish. And I feel like the only time it ever really hit me, because I've gone back and retaken records before, and it's fun to have that back and forth, like
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's like a friend that's going up against you or somebody in the community you know really well. But personally, at least, and everyone's different. I'm not speaking for everyone, but for me, the only time it really felt special was the first time I got the record. Like I'd get that record, and it felt like I had climbed to the top of the mountain, and I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody can ever take that from you. Um, Even if your summit is moved backwards over time. I mean, I'm sure again bringing up Darkwing Duck in the Zelda One community, his PB he hasn't ran the game in years. His PB I believe is a 29 flat or a 2901 something like that, which at the time was second place, but he had the record so many times and done so many things that he is easily, and he is a very proud speedrunner, and deservedly so. He's accomplished so much. He doesn't have anything to prove. He could go back and learn the game, but
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't necessarily need to. I'm assuming, of course, I'm not him, so I can't speak for him. But that's kind of what I take from that is like, as a speedrunner, if you're satisfied with what you've done, if you're proud of what you've done, that's the only person that really matters. Like you said, I mean, yeah, people care, but the only one who really cares is you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think for the most part. I mean, there are only a few exceptions. Like obviously your closest friends and people that are you're close to in your communities. I mean, there's always exceptions, but um, that's kind of one of my takeaways from the trials. Is just it's about where you go
Mm-hmm.
and where you feel you've gone. And like I'm more proud of some of my runs that you look at on a leaderboard and they're dead last place. Like
Hmm.
somebody might look at that and be like, this guy's whack. He stinks at this game. I don't care. I had a blast learning the game and the community was cool. Like one example is Mega Man Legends. I absolutely didn't see that one coming. I thought that game was going to be awful. I thought it was going to be terrible.
Hmm.
And my run is literally dead last on the leaderboard and I don't care. I am so proud of that run and that time, and the community was outstanding and just A plus experience. I would love to go back to that game. Now
Mm-hmm.
that I no longer have, dozens of other games to learn, I kind of have the freedom to do whatever I want. So if I do go back to that game, I can grind it as much as I want. But I'm still very, very proud of those different experiences.
Mm-hmm. So with 200 games that you've done, I feel like we should find some highlights. So what are like the best speed runs? You talked about a couple of them, but any other ones?
There were a couple surprises.
Mm.
I think the biggest surprise for me, as far as like I didn't see it coming and how much fun I had, were the two CDI Zelda games that I had to learn.
Oh my God.
Um, because they're not good games.
No.
As like when you play them casually, the controls are janky, they're laggy. It's a confusing game. It's not an easy game to play
Mhm.
casually. But from a speedrunning perspective, once you know where you can jump, and once you know what the strat is to do the things, and what resources you need, and then you figure out the route, and now you have this very pretty uh, game with a banging soundtrack. It may not be a good Zelda game. By no
Mhm.
means am I claiming that. It's a terrible Zelda game. If they took the word Zelda out of the title and just made it something else, I think it would have been a pretty decent experience that people would never have complained about.
Hmm.
It's only notable, of course, because of it being a janky Zelda game with these terrible cutscenes. But I find them to be charming.
Oh,
I
they're
find the
hilarious.
entire game, yeah, like I love it. My chat loved it. It was a lot of fun, and the speed run is exciting. It
Hmm.
it is it's hard, it's white knuckle almost the entire way. There's very little RNG, and overall, just kind of hit me. I didn't expect it, and um, definitely a game I want to go back to. I will always keep my CDI just for that reason because I really enjoyed it. Um,
Nice.
there's a bunch of others too, but those are the ones I think that stand out the most.
Hmm. It's interesting. So do you have like original hardware for every console you had to learn? Wow. So you got a big
With
collection then.
Yeah, with only a few exceptions.
Hmm.
Mostly in situations where it wasn't feasible. Like when I did the Atari 5200 episode,
Mm.
Atari 5200s are awful. They're terrible hardware. They break. The controllers are awful. They're rare, so they're expensive, and they're janky. They don't work. So I just decided to emulate that one. Another example of that was the Amiga 32. Same deal.
Hmm.
So I just played The Town with No Name on my computer and called it good. And that game, that was one of the highlights in the other direction. Like that was like hilariously bad. Still a really fun experience, but it's such a terrible game.
Hmm. I don't even know what it is, so.
Oh, you deserve to go watch that one, man. That
Mm.
is a treat. Oh, that is. It's a an animated rotoscoped, awfully animated rotoscoped, like story based game from the early 90s that has like the worst voice acting that somebody recorded in their basement. And it's like just, it's hilarious. Yeah, you definitely want to check that one out.
Okay.
It's hilarious. Um, but still though, you find things in each game for the most part. There's definitely games in the trials that were awful experiences, terrible experiences, but the vast majority of them, I would find something about them that I really enjoyed, or something about them that chat loved, or we'd find ways to enjoy them, and that's what made the ride so much fun.
Nice. So, what are the absolute dog shit ones then?
Um, the easy one that stands out that I could talk about is Polybius,
Mm.
for the PlayStation 4, because you might already be aware of the urban legend, but there's an urban legend. The AVGN did an episode on it where there was a game in the early 80s called Polybius that was like co-made by the CIA or something like that, where they would like hypnotize people and steal their information, or like give them subliminal thoughts or stuff. And it's an urban legend. There's no proof it exists.
Mm-hmm.
But the nerd did an episode of it, and because of that, I had to pick a game from it. And he did showcase some actual real games that were made like in honor of the urban legend. So I picked the one on the PS4 because it's new and it looks really cool and would probably make for a better speed run. I had no idea what I was getting in store for. I'm actually working on a really big video project on this game right now that I'm gonna have on my own personal YouTube, hopefully by the end of next week. But it basically is 120 frames a second, VR.
Mm.
It has flashing imagery and colors and lights so outrageously like psychedelic and bright that the game has two warnings at the beginning of it that you have to click in order just to boot the game. That says like, yo, dog, if you're sensitive to this stuff, this is not the game for you.
Makes sense.
But it's a corridor rail shooter. It has 50 levels, and the imagery is extremely psychedelic. It's meant to be almost like a video game drug, kind of, where when you play it, it hypnotizes you a little.
Mm.
And it's also extremely difficult with like when you can see the enemies. Again, 120 frames a second, and some of those lasers you might have like 2 or 3 frames to dodge. You just have to keep moving and hope you get lucky. Like that's what it felt like. You had to get lucky to get through that game. And there are invisible enemies that you just can't see that hit you. The game is a total mind trip. It is designed in such a way that it's meant to mess with you.
Yeah.
And definitely not meant to be a single segment speed run. And it took me 6.5 hours to do that speed run. A game where I'm not kidding, man. I put my controller down and went into my bedroom and cried for 2 minutes with the timer running. 2 minutes with the timer running. I broke a controller. I did multiple shots of vodka. I went on rants and sat here like this, like rocking back and forth in my chair, like going crazy, man. That world record still stands today. Nobody's ever done it before or since. There's not even a single segment playthrough of the game that anyone has ever accomplished other than myself that I can find online. I mean, if anyone's done it, there's no proof of it. And like genuinely had me questioning everything. Like I was seeing things when I looked away. I was seeing like the walls were moving and I was seeing shapes and colors and all this crazy stuff, man. And like genuinely was dangerous. I would not do that again. I made it through, thank goodness, but that was easily the worst experience in video gaming I've ever had in my life. And the thing is, like, the game's not even bad. It's just not intended to be played as a speed run.
Yeah. So I mean,
was
Polybius lived up to its name, I guess. It
in
literally.
a way I never saw coming.
Yeah, there you go. Wow. So you said it was VR too, so you were like in a headset having to play it?
Oh.
Oh my god.
So luckily I didn't have to play it VR because it does play normally.
Oh, okay.
Thank God. Because like there are a few people on YouTube that played the VR, and they attempted to play it in VR, and they couldn't make it more than 10 minutes. They would take the headsets off. I'm about to throw up. I'm about to pass out. Like this is making me crazy. And like,
Holy shit.
and I'm pretty sure they intended that. You know, I'm pretty sure they intended the game to kind of be like a virtual drug, so to speak. And they accomplished that, man. That game had me in a mind state that I've never been before or since and never want to be. Like multiple times I cried, I laughed, I yelled and screamed and just getting through that changed me.
Wow.
I think that was kind of like the tipping point that made me stop being the salty, super serious speedrunner that I'd been for my entire career up to that point, and kind of just said, dude, like it's not that serious. You're just playing a game. I mean, you can take it seriously. You can put effort into it. You can want to push yourself, but have fun when you do it, and just don't let yourself get so wrapped up in what you're doing that you're not enjoying it anymore. Like that's what chat wants to see. They want to see you have fun. That's what you want to see. You want to have fun. It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to be fun. And although I had experiences after that were questionable, we won't talk about how I took a hatchet to my copy of Sword Quest for Atari, or how I chucked my Wally Bear in the No Gang across my living room, or other experiences like that. But none of them even came close to how that experience was. And yeah, like nobody's ever attempted it since. So hopefully if you ever do, if you're watching this and you decide, oh, I'm gonna go try this, just be careful, man. Just be ready for what you're getting into. That's all I'm gonna say. And good luck.
Yeah. Hopefully you come through on the other side. It's I never really heard of that game. Well, I mean I've heard of the legend, but not of the PS4. That's sounds like it was a life-changing experience.
I never saw it coming. It was kind of weird because that was a game that I downloaded. So I got off work and I downloaded the game and I played a few of the levels and it was easy. It was fun. It was cool. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be easy. I can bust this out. It'll be easy world record. And then like the next game in the trials at that point, I think was Symphony of the Night. And I'd never played that before. So my goal was to play through it casually. So I could experience the game before I learned the speed run. And so I'm thinking like, oh man, this is great. I'm just gonna play some Polybius real quick, get a little tripped out on these colors and lights, and then I'm gonna fire up Symphony of the Night and have a great stream. Oh man, that was the worst stream of my life. It was something I never saw coming. It just the difficulty curve, because you imagine the imagery, bright flashing lights, all these colors, shapes, spots, swirls, and you have to focus so hard because of how difficult it is that you're staring. Just you can't take your eyes off of what's happening, and it's an experience. It's just something I can't describe. You have to experience it, but don't experience it as a speed run. just play the game and enjoy it.
Wow. So did you have to do like a bunch of attempts for that, or did you just do like one long one?
I did one long one and walked away. There were a few games in the trials that I realized very quickly were not my cup of tea, and finished them in the criteria that allowed me to put them on the leaderboard as a speed run and drop them. Like, because there were a lot of games like that, like Kid Cool for the NES. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, but it's such a bad game. The controls are so janky. It's terrible and it's long. It's probably I think the world record's like 25 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. And there's a lot of levels. It's just repetitive and the controls are momentum based. And I learned the first couple stages and it was so awful. It was so awful that I just kind of learned some quick and dirty speed strats and just brute forced it and said, I'm good, man. I don't want to spend the next week and a half learning this terrible game that nobody wants to see. But that's again kind of like what kind of goes back to what we were saying with the whole enjoy the ride. Because some of the games were not bad. Like the AVGN doesn't just do bad games. Like I got to learn Ninja Gaiden, Mega Man 2, Punch Out, Castlevania, Mario.
Hell yeah.
And those were much more enjoyable experiences for sure.
Yeah. A lot of NES one, like all of those were NES games. Yeah. It's probably my favorite console to learn about, see the games for, the speed runs for. Something about it. But yeah.
Like the NES was a console I grew up with, but
me too, but in a different way, I assume.
Yeah, I mean I always thought the Super Nintendo was my favorite console, and it was until I got into speedrunning. And the NES has really come back for me. It's changed. I've really changed my my opinion of it. But I mean, I grew up with it as a kid. My first games were NES games. Um, you know, we were '80s kids, so we had the playground discussions about different games, and that I lived the Sega versus Super Nintendo arguments. You know, Genesis does what Nintendo and all that. That was my generation. So um, I feel like it's kind of neat to have that perspective, both from living it when it was happening and also now. As hindsight's always 2020, right?
Hmm.
So you can kind of see, oh man, what Donkey Kong Country is a beautiful game, but now we know how they did it. It's still a great game, but it doesn't blow my mind nearly as much as something like a like what they were able to do with like F-Zero on the day they released the NES, the Super
Hmm.
Nintendo, or even just on the Super Nintendo with like games like Mario 3 that had the scrolling as smooth as they did and the big overworld and everything. It's just they're retro games again, like what we were talking about earlier, just really feel different.
Hmm.
And that's just where my heart is. I don't think it'll ever go anywhere else.
Yep. Yeah. So I know that he probably made a lot of videos on the NES games because there's a lot of good ones, but there's a lot of shitty NES games too. Um, I should show you my NES collection that I grew up with. So like, it
Okay.
was my parents, and then like when I was born, like they just had the NES, so I grew up with that. So I went from NES to Wii. So big
Oh wow.
step. But so they only had like 10 games, and I guarantee like over half of them you played because they're those type of games. I'm gonna get them
Yeah.
just because this is funny. I'm sure you'll understand. So of course, uh, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
I'm sure that was a fun one.
It was better than I expected, but
Yeah,
it was a single day trial that I quickly moved on from. We'll put it that way.
yeah. I tried. I actually got pretty good at it. I could never beat it as a kid because it's bullshit and sucks. But thank God I played it though, because I played it probably before I watched the movies, and it made me like watch the movies as a kid, and it's still my favorite movie franchise by far ever. So shout
I
outs to
loved
that at
the
least. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, one day I saw the cartridge there and I was like, I'm just gonna play it again, and I beat it on my first try. I don't know how I did
Nice.
it. And then on stream, I beat it on my first try again. I was like, oh, cool. And then stream recently, I was like, you know what? I want to beat it again. I want to have like a better, because the first time I beat it, I didn't have a camera or anything. So I was just like, I couldn't for some reason. I suddenly just sucked again. I was like, okay, so it doesn't matter how good you are at this game. Because I realized like it's heavily RNG based. The enemy spawns are random. I didn't notice that until I kept dying on the same stage, and I was like, wait, that guy wasn't there before. Wait, that didn't spawn there. Uh-oh. There's RNG in this game, and a lot of it.
Oh, even just the end sequence with the lightning bolts and when you're driving the
Oh, and that's
DeLorean.
the worst part. Yeah, you have one
Yeah.
shot, completely RNG, to beat the game at all. So
I
that's the
think
other thing. I couldn't even get there though. It was
I think when
weird.
I got there the first time, I was able to get through, and that was my PB that I ended up finishing the trials with because I got there a few more times.
Hmm.
It kind of reminds me a lot of Jaws on the NES in that regard. Like you get through the entire game, you've got lives. The game is a specific style, and you get through it, and you finally get to that end sequence. And in Jaws, just like in Back to the Future, like you have one shot to stab the shark.
Hmm.
I think you have like technically like three shots, but like still, like one chance. If you fail it, game over, rip, go back to the start and do the whole thing over again. It's just the NES games didn't have any chill.
Yep.
And yeah, like they're saying in chat, it was completely random. Like there
Yep.
was no like it's one thing if you play a game like Gogol 13, for example, on the NES, where there's one in sequence where you only have one chance, but it's so easy that you could probably put the controller down, pick it back up, say, "Oh crap," and still shoot the guy in plenty of time.
Hmm.
Like the LGN games, man, they had no chill.
No, not at all. But yeah, because when I beat it and then I beat the game again, I was like, maybe I could speedrun this. That'd be interesting because a childhood game, it'd be cool to like conquer this, not so great game. Now I'm not so sure after finding out just how RNG heavy it is. It's like, ugh, I don't like RNG, man. This is gonna suck.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's a childhood game right there. I never made it to the like the dance where you playing the guitar and you got to pick up the notes. But I
Mhm.
suddenly just beat it first try that one day randomly and then beat it again. Now I can again. It's weird. I don't have to show Mario plus Duck Hunt. That's a waste. But oh, did he do Fester's Quest?
Ah, yes.
Yeah. All right. So there's another one. I'm sure that's like a mashing one, right? You
Mhm.
gotta like, yeah, that's gotta suck.
We had that in common. I had that game as a child too,
Mm.
and as a kid, I never beat it.
Oh, I
I
didn't
never even
even.
really got.
I entered the sewer and that's it. I did not know what to do. Like I found the light but yeah, now I get it. But you like need a turbo button for that. Like you're just sitting there like, it sucks.
Yeah,
And
when you
you have
mash
to
that game,
grind forever to get like the higher gun power or whatever.
so
Ugh.
like when I play that game, I have to hold the controller kind of like a taco, kind of like this. So I
Yeah.
use my thumb like this, and I
hmm
just hold my thumb and my forefinger kind of like this, and I just
And
rub
just.
the button like that,
Oh
and that's
yeah.
how I
Okay.
mash.
Got it.
Um, and I have a controller that has Game Boy buttons in it specifically so I can mash so it doesn't just because this will just shred your fingernails.
hmm
So I have a controller that's modified so I can do that, and that was the one I used for that. But believe it or not, the any% run and the any% glitchless run is a lot harder because you actually have to fight the bosses, and those
Mm.
bosses are so ridiculous. They're damage sponges, and they kill you in like 3 hits.
Yeah, you have
But the
two
any
hits of health in that game, and that's it. You die up,
and
back to the start.
the any% run allows you to glitch them. There's a really cool glitch that you can try if you want.
Mm.
If you're able to get to the first boss or any of the bosses, you go to the bottom left corner of the screen. There's a very specific area, but it's not like pixel perfect. It's pretty generous. And you use a key, and
Mm.
it glitches the boss out. He dies, and you move on.
Huh. Okay.
There's also some really cool. There's a clip in the final level, which is the final level is this UFO that is just enormous. It's bigger than the overworld map in the main area of the game. It takes about 10 minutes to get through glitchless.
I haven't even seen the
Um,
entire overworld, so damn, that's gotta be large.
it's incredibly difficult to get through if you play glitchless because the enemies are everywhere. You have limited resources. There are no hot dog stands. So in the game,
Hot
hot dog
dogs.
stands refill your health.
Oh, I'm learning so
Um,
much.
you have potions, but you can only carry like I think 5 or 10 of them.
Hmm.
So you save those for specific areas because these aliens are way faster than you. They shoot in all directions. Um, but the speed run, I don't know who discovered it. I have to ask. I don't know if Bidey's dad still has the record in that game, but he was the one that taught me the out of bounds clips. And you can clip through the wall, and then using the lurch item, the lurch has a noose that clears the enemies off the screen. You can clip through walls
Hmm.
and use the whip item, which is as a kid I didn't even know what the whip was because on the sub screen it shows a whip, and I never found the whip in my entire childhood. And eventually you find it, and it's like this super OP weapon, but it allows you to clip out of bounds. You skip like 80% of that final stage, and then just glitch the final boss out.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, a
Hmm.
pretty cool speed run. I was able to do that at GDQX
Ooh.
back in 2019, and um, definitely was a speed run that I think maybe I shouldn't have submitted,
Hmm.
but fortunately I was able to have a deathless run.
Hmm.
That's still to this day one of my most proud moments as far as like marathons and stuff. Like that was unbelievably difficult, and I was able to pull it off. So I got kind of lucky.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. I didn't realize how. I mean, again, I've never seen past like that sewer part because again, you have two hits of health and then you die and then you reset the entire thing or something. So I've never
You
seen.
die to that final boss, it sends you all the way back to the beginning of the game.
Oh, good God.
18 minutes in speedrun strats to get to that point, and if or roughly, I mean, like the world record's like a 15, I think, but maybe even faster than that at this point. But yeah, like you die, it doesn't matter where you are, sends you all the way back, and you have to go through the sewers and through the buildings and do all that again with only one life. And it's a pretty challenging game, but honestly, a pretty fun speed run.
Hmm.
Like
No, that's cool.
way more fun than I thought it was gonna be.
I just thought it'd be terrible because of all the mashing you have to do, but that's cool. Um, let's see. I doubt you had to do Tetris.
Actually, Tetris was in the trials.
Oh, really?
Because the nerd did an episode. So if you know, James Rolfe has a series called Board James, or at least he used to. I don't know if he still does it.
Yeah.
But he did a crossover episode with the AVGM,
Oh, okay.
and in that episode, he doesn't play any video games, but they played the board game Tetris. So that was what I chose. Like I had to pick something, so I was like, oh, I might as well play Tetris then. But I had already been like partially a speedrunner Tetris at that point. So I went for a sub 5 and 100 lines, and I was able to get that. That's a challenging speed run. That's a fun one though.
It's crazy, like high level NES Tetris players pull off the craziest shit. It's so cool.
I can't do any of that, man. I used to go to GDQ and watch Ness Cardinality, who's one of the better Tetris players in the retro scene, who's not a Tetris main. Like obviously the people like Jonas, rest in peace, or any of the folks that played Tetris at a high level with the micro tapping or the different tricks they use to get to like level 17, 18. Absolutely incredible to watch how fast they can react to that stuff. I like to think I'm pretty good at Tetris. I'm nowhere near their level. No. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's cool though. Yeah, I still need to. I mean, I don't remember how much I played Tetris, and I didn't even know there was like different releases. Like I learned the story of Tetris from probably the Gaming Historian video, and I didn't know about the Tengen unofficial thing, and then I just had the NES one, like, well, the Nintendo official one, and it's just interesting to learn like how Tetris came to be, and now it's like the one of the best-selling video games, especially for the Game Boy. But I don't know if that counts because it was released with it, so I don't know. But yeah,
that's the one I grew up with, and the NES version, the licensed version is superior, but the Game Boy one's pretty fun too.
Yeah, I figured, but Blades of Steel's pretty good. Oh, here's TMNT.
Yep.
There it is. So I'm sure that was in it. How's that? Because there's so much lag. There's so much lag in that game.
No, that is a fun speed run. It's the worst part about TMNT if you're playing it on real cart is that so later in the game, near the very end of the speed run, you have to find the Technodrome and enter it. And at this point, the enemies hit really hard, and there's glitches that you can use to skip parts of the level, but it's still it's hard to get through that. And it's RNG, and there's 4 different places, if I remember correctly. There might be more. I don't remember. It might be 4 or 5. But there's different sewers that the Technodrome can be in at the end of this long, grueling section. And honestly, in the speed run, if you don't get it first try, you're just going to reset. And that was annoying. Skunky actually came up with a manipulation to get the Technodrome almost every time, but now they have a category that uses a race ROM, which has become very popular. Those were not options when I ran the game. I had to just brute force it, man. Yeah. And I'm pretty proud of my 2203, I think is what my PB was, something like that. Because I got first try Technodrome. I didn't make any major mistakes. It's not nearly the level of like a Skunky or a Stormcrow or any of those top runners, but it's a good time. I think it's a fun speed run with a lot of cool strats. It's difficult, but if you had that as a kid, you'd enjoy that speed run, I think.
Yeah, I think the game was really cool. It's just one of those like really hard ones, of course. So especially later, I never made it past the 3rd area. I remember the water section would be hard as a kid, but now it's like easy as hell. I don't know what my dumb child brain was thinking, but I have Jeopardy on the NES for some reason. I don't think Ski or Die was in there.
No.
Oh, but this totally had to have been, right? Milan's Secret Castle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, that was my mom's favorite game
Mm,
growing up. She was not very good at it, but she would play it all the time, and I wasn't very good at it either. I struggled, never got very far in it because I didn't really approach it the right way as a kid. You know, you're a kid.
hmm.
You're just trying to get through things quickly. You're not really. I was a bad gamer when I was a kid,
We all
but
were.
I that trial I ended up going with like 100%, which is where you have to get all the secret mini games to get the money to buy all the items,
Hmm.
and it was a challenging speed run, but man was that fun. Surprised the heck out of me. It's difficult. There's a
Hmm.
lot of I actually died a couple times in my run. I died to the final boss on a very good pace and ended up having to go all the way back through the game, which isn't that bad. It's like a minute time loss, but
Mm.
um, that was a game that surprised me. That if you have the patience to learn the route and the different strats, there's a little mashing, there's a little bit of it's execution heavy, but it's fun.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I could never get past like the first area. I didn't know what to do. That's almost a game where you have to cheat to win. I don't know. Everything's so tedious and they don't make it obvious where things are, and you have to do some shit I never would have thought of. I don't know. It's weird. Um,
The
yeah, what?
Oh, I was gonna say there's these mini games in the game where you so the premise of the game is you're in this like area and your character is deaf and you're in this land that's like music. Like I think that he has a spell on him that caused him to go deaf and he has to try to reverse the spell. I could be wrong on
Mm,
how the story goes because they're not really clear on it, but there's these mini games in the game where you have to catch falling music notes. And
mhm,
you have to avoid certain types but grab certain types. And you have to do all 7 of these and you have to do them flawlessly,
mm.
and that was the most challenging thing in that game and is pretty tough. That would be something if you want to learn that speed run, try that out and try to learn that flawless, and if you can't do it or you don't want to do that,
No.
you're better off moving on.
All right. Well, the only other game I had and have the cart force is Al Unser Jr.'s Turbo Racing. I don't think that would have been in it. So.
No, but I had that game as a kid too, and it's
Oh,
awesome, isn't it?
yes. Okay. Yeah. The music's so
The
good in it.
music.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
You understand.
It's a fun game. Like they
Yeah.
made it's like Rad Racer with good controls.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole turbo boosting, just holding up after the third gear,
Yeah.
just flying by. You crash into something. It's just this loud explosion.
No, that was
Yeah.
a fun one, man. That's a fun game.
Yeah. But yeah, there's my collection. As you can see, half of them are not great games, so I figured they'd be in the trials, and yeah, sure enough.
But the funny thing is, with the exception of probably Back to the Future, and even that had its charm.
Hmm.
Even that had things about it that I liked. Like it's far from the worst game in the trials. I would be willing to play that again. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm still willing to
Um,
play it again. I actually don't think it's that bad of a game. It's
mhm.
bad, but it's not that bad. Is what I
Yeah,
is how I think of it.
like, and that's my big takeaway. I think from the trials as a whole is even if a game is bad, like the CDI Zelda games,
Hmm.
or even a game like Polybius, or whatever in between, you can take a positive experience from almost every speedrun you can possibly learn. If you open your mind to it and enjoy the process, the whole learning of, you know, the route, or okay, I have to learn this strat, or I have to learn these backups. It's kind of like if you've ever participated in like a Big 20 or an Escathlon or any of those kind of big races where you have to learn backup strats, or you have to learn race strats, or you have to learn what the best route is for your skill level. Because if you just go for world record strats on every game, you're going to be there for a really long time. Because some of
Hmm.
these games, like I'm not going for flagpole glitch in Mario 1. I've got a 507. I'm not.
Hmm.
Why would I do that? You
You
know.
fire strats for the
Um,
win. That's what I'm saying.
but learning what strats you need to do in order to do the goals you want and what you're comfortable doing. I think those are the things that really make bad games fun to speedrun because they're not always as terrible as they should be.
Hmm.
Even when they are bad, there's still that the whole aspect of it that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier with the games you've played to death, learning those as speedruns. Like it's a different experience.
Hmm.
And I encourage speedrunners who are not sure what they want to try yet to pick a game that you just are curious about and just mess with it. And you never know, right? I mean, there's a lot of games out there that don't get any love that are really fun speedruns. And you might surprise yourself.
Yeah, almost every game I feel like has something about it in a speedrun that just makes it worthwhile. I'll like have when GDQ was online, I'd have it on my TV 24/7. And if I'm doing something, I'd look over and see some game I've never heard of and I'm like, "What? That's sick. What's going on there?" It's always something.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about the retro stuff. There's so much variety. Like you could learn Sim City and
Hmm.
make that into a speed run and be like, yo, this is kind of cool. Or Harvest Moon or like even something weird like Al Unser Jr. That was in the most
Yeah.
recent either Big 20 or Niscathlon. I can't remember which.
Mm.
But a lot of people really enjoyed that. They were like, "Oh, this is a fun speed run," and I could see it. Like you
Mm.
have to be a little open minded because obviously everyone knows about the Mario's, they know about the Zeldas, the Metroids, the Mega Mans, and the Castlevanias. Those are good speed runs and they're popular for a reason, but
Hmm.
that's not the only thing the NES or other retro consoles have to offer. And it's a big collection out there. There's 700 games, I think, 714, I think.
Hmm.
Um, there's some games out there that nobody should touch,
Hmm.
but they're few and far between, and that's why I love the NES.
And that's 714 like Nintendo seal of approval North American
Yeah.
releases. There's Japanese, there's bootlegs, there's unlicensed ROM hacks.
Yes, there is.
Oh, there you can go on forever, really.
Mhm.
And that's just the NES.
Yeah,
There are
like
way too many games out there, and most of them probably make good speedruns. Not all of them, but
there's still a really robust homebrew scene in
mm-hmm.
the NES community. Just recently they released this NES game. I cannot for the life of me think about what it's called, but it had built-in Wi-Fi.
What?
Yeah, the cartridge has a Wi-Fi antenna inside of it and connect online, so you can play online against your friends
Okay.
on on real hardware. Isn't that the coolest thing, man?
That I didn't even think that could be possible.
Like it blows my mind that right now I'm at 5 feet from me is an EverDrive
Mm-hmm.
that I can do so much with. That if you, I mean, I remember we used to talk about stuff like that as kids back in the early 90s. Like, oh, my uncle works for Nintendo. They've got this cartridge that has every game ever on it. No, they don't. No, they did not. But
Mm-hmm.
now they do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the coolest thing ever, man. Like, FPGA consoles and clone consoles have evolved to the point that there's so many options out there, not
Mm-hmm.
just official options that just make speed running and retro gaming so much more accessible than
Mm-hmm.
it ever was before.
And that's great because we need to preserve the classics. That's how it all started. May it never be forgotten. But yeah, EverDrives are the best thing ever. I love them. I buy it for everything. I love the conveniency of just having whatever I want to play right there. Like I don't like game collecting personally. I just don't want to spend a bunch of money on when I can just buy one thing and there you go. You have whatever you want to play. So, just easier that way.
As somebody who's been collecting for a long time, um, there is something appealing about playing on real hardware with real cart. Don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, but the convenience of flashcards and emulators can't be overstated, and like also the benefits that they give that you wouldn't have otherwise. Like just for example, save states on real hardware. Like
Mhm.
to me, that's so big. Like
Oh yeah.
makes practicing so much easier.
Yeah, EverDrives are like a must for speedrunning
Mhm.
if you're playing on original hardware. Yeah. Yeah, I'm someone who likes original hardware too, but EverDrives is just loading the ROM like it was a cartridge. So to me, that's the same thing. So I don't care about having all the carts personally, but I definitely like original hardware. I like seeing as it was originally released to the public and being like, "Yep, I'm playing it the same way you always could." There you go. But yeah, I have no issues. EverDrives are just the coolest thing. I'll praise
Mhm.
them for hours if I need to. It's so good. Especially the pros with the NES now has 99 save states per
Yep.
ROM.
Oh,
Oh my god.
they have custom firmware now that my friend Wells just showed me it. I haven't done it yet because I'm just been too busy with everything going on. But excuse me, custom firmware now that allows you to have folders, so you can have more than 99 save states per game now.
Hmm.
Um, and just that's what's great about the scene is there's still so much opportunity for innovation and new ways to approach things that we just didn't think of and are still not thinking of. Like, you can hook your Super Nintendo up with a USB cable, and not only can you have an input reader, but you can have auto tracking for randomizers. You can have auto splitting for speed runs.
Mm-hmm.
You can play online with people and like crowd control.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, man. I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to see what's going to happen in the future because like every time I think there's no more innovation, there's somebody does something cool. So
Oh yeah.
it's just cool to see all the different things coming out these days.
Oh yeah. Uh, I'm excited too. Like the I remember it having trouble like getting my first ever drive for my NES, and now I have the Pro. I have an AV Famicom RGB modded. It looks so nice, and yeah, I set up an auto splitter image reading, so now I don't have to split anymore. Makes speedrunning so much easier. I don't have to think about it. And just what's next? I don't know. I'm looking forward to it though. Whatever it is. I don't know how it could possibly improve though. I have everything I need. What I've been doing instead of folders is I just make different I just rename the ROM something different like per category. And
Yeah.
so there are ways around it, but that's cool.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah, back in the day with the Power Pack,
mhm.
um, when I first got into speedrunning, I actually had the EverDrive N8, the original,
Mhm.
but even that had limitations. But the original Power Pack guys would have to have custom firmware that had save states, power mappers, I think we called it, and then they'd have to have ROMs for each, like you said, like each individual space because you only had 5 save states.
Mhm.
So there would be just this stack of ROMs in the same folder, and you'd be like, I have this flash cart that can play every game ever, but I just have the same game 30 times.
Mhm.
So,
That's how it goes. Yeah. Now the whole like menu process on the EverDrives now are so easy and sorting so nice. Yeah. I'll show off mine. There's the Famicom Pro, like Mario
nice.
colors. Yeah, it's really
Oh,
good.
yours looks a little. Yeah, yours looks a little different than mine. I mean, I can grab mine.
I mean, I have one for every. Oh yeah. Uh, I get mine from Stone Age Gamer. That's probably why.
Uh,
There it is.
yeah,
Because
Krizix is excuse me. He's awesome. Shouts out to him continuing to work
yeah,
even with everything going on overseas.
yeah, here he is. It's certified.
Or Crix, excuse me, Crix, not Krizix. I don't know why I said his name like
Mhm.
that.
Close enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool devices. Again, like almost mandatory for speedrunners on original hardware. Would recommend. Although they can be pricey, so
Mhm.
be aware, I guess, if you're interested. But oh my god, life saving for stuff. So, any other trial highlights?
Um, I mean, game 200 probably is obviously. I mean, that's the end, right? But
Oh
like,
yeah.
so Akari Warriors was the final game, and there was one of the games that was originally part of the list from day one, from the inception.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever seen it before or ever played it, it's a terrible game.
Mm-hmm.
um, it's an overhead shooter. You can move in 8 directions. You can shoot in 8 directions, but the gun is weird. The way it moves is weird. One hit deaths, you have 3 lives, and game over. There is a code called ABBA where you just tap ABBA after you game over, and it gives you infinite continues basically. But the speed run does not allow that. In the most popular category, it has to be 1cc. It is the most challenging game I've ever 1cc'd in my life. It's not even close. But so I knew that going into it. Like I knew it was going to be difficult. I had no clue how difficult. It took me 72 hours to beat 1cc. A lot of training, a lot of practice, a lot of research. But maybe because it was the final game, or maybe because it was just knowing how much I feared that. It was a genuinely fun experience going through that game. I originally so the trials, we had a list of games, and they were all in a big jumble, and I would just randomly draw one. That's how we came up with each new game. And I always feared Akari Warriors. That was one of the games I feared the most. And eventually, as the games list kept getting smaller and smaller, and the odds of me getting Akari Warriors next went up each time, I said, you know what? I don't want game 200 to be something lame like Berenstein Bears or Mary Kate and Ashley or something, man. I want to go out with a bang. So I decided to take Akari Warriors and designate that as game 200. And the community was very supportive, like, because that game nearly broke me. Not because of the same reasons Polybius broke me. It was more just because it was difficult and I was struggling to do it. And they picked me right back up. You know, just seeing how my community and the retro community was just rallying behind me was very touching, and just really helped me to realize that, you know, even as just a relatively small streamer and just somebody who is just speedrunning games, or just an old dude playing video games, but you can still touch lives. You know, you can still make an impact in the community, and just was a very fitting swan song for my life's biggest project. And I'm just very grateful that I was able to do it for everybody. I was able to finally get it, and I'll never forget it.
Yeah, very cool accomplishment to beat. I mean, so many of those games are so bad. So many. I'm glad there were some bangers in there though, and some games that are just shitty games that suck ass, but they were good speed runs, which is sick. I mean, you don't know until you try, and no one's gonna try to play bad games usually. So
exactly, like you kind of just go into it like, oh, I'm not gonna worry about the games like Mega Man 2 because that's gonna be fun, or Zelda, that's gonna be fun. I'm scared of the games like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Bible Adventures, or you know, those games that put the fear of God into some of them, some people. But what I learned is that even in those bad games, there's good takeaways. Like one other highlight I can think of is I don't remember what game number it was. I want to say it was 48 or something like that. But Home Alone for the NES was on the list. It hadn't been played yet, and I went to AGDQ 2020.
I know. I already know what this is. Yeah, I'm ashamed I didn't take part in this, but yeah.
You should have been. It was so cool, man.
I know. I regret it to this day, but yeah. Okay, go ahead. People need to know.
MC Aaron Ice, a good friend of mine, decided that he wanted to do something cool because he had figured out the speed run, regardless of, I don't know how he figured it out, but he figured out how to do it in a very easy and accessible way that anyone can learn. And he made a really cool tutorial, by the way. I have it linked on the Home Alone page on my website, which is it okay if I tell people about that? avgntrials.com. If you go to the Home Alone page there, it's linked there, or you can go to his YouTube. It's obviously on his YouTube, but it's MC Aaron Ice. He made a really cool tutorial that can teach you how to get a world record. If you follow his tutorial, you will tie the world record, almost guaranteed. It'll take you an afternoon. And he came to GDQ, and there were only like 10 people who had done this. And he's like, hey, I want to do something really special. And so he gathered a bunch of speedrunners, and he knew that Home Alone was on my list. So he asked me if I wanted to partake. I was like, heck yeah, man. So he taught it to me, and he taught it to 10 other people. Well, 9 other people, because there was 11 of us. Him, me, and the other 9. Cool Kid, Metroid McFly, Apollo, Zetox. There was others. There were others. I can't remember off the top of my head. Um, Cypherin, a few others.
Hmm.
And we all sat down and we lined up 11 CRTs with 11 NESs, and we started doing attempts to do it all at the same time. And because for those that don't know, the speed run of Home Alone is an NES game. It's 19 minutes and 58 seconds. It's supposed to be 20 minutes, but the NES runs a little faster than that.
Hmm.
Um, so you have to just avoid Marv and Harry. You just have to avoid the bad guys, just survive. And it's basically a glorified, like, there's no way to beat that time.
Hmm.
Like 1958 is the fastest time that we know of to beat the game right this second. So we would run it until we all got this glitch that basically guaranteed we'd get the record, and we would reset if one person failed. And it took us a few dozen tries, but eventually we got it, and we were able to all get a world record at the exact same time at GDQ, which was really awesome to be a part of. I can see why some people declined to be a part of it because it didn't really sound that special.
Hmm.
But then when it happened, it was also an experience I'll never forget, and just really cool to be a part of. And like, shouts out to Aaron for putting that together because that was extremely fun to be a part of.
I remember seeing the video and just all of the screens almost at the same time going to that, like, you beat the game screen or whatever, was sick. There were like articles written about it too. Like it
Mm-hmm.
got some traction on the internet, which was sick.
Yeah,
But yeah.
there's for every low light in the trials, there's highlights like that. Like obviously the records, some of which I still have, and some of the games were more grinding and difficult to beat than others. But overall, just an experience so diverse. I could probably write a book about it, and just very grateful it's over. But also, I'm kind of sad it's over because it's been a part of my life for 5 years, and now it's kind of like, how do I follow that up, man? I don't know, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, plenty of time to figure it out, and if you can't think of anything, just play something that was fun from it for a little bit. Yeah. Plenty of options, 200 of them.
Yep.
So, how many world records did you get from this?
45.
Wow.
Now, to be fair, a lot of these were either uncontested,
Hmm.
Polybius being one example, Top Gun on like the NES, or a few others, like Ben 10 on the Hyperscan. If you've never seen the Hyperscan, it's a stupid console that used NFC cards. And you would scan these cards, it'd give you power ups. It's stupid rare, and it's stupid because it didn't sell. It's awful. It came out like the same year as the Xbox 360, but it looks like a Super Nintendo game. Like, it's so stupid.
Hmm.
So a lot of these were just uncontested records that were like free. All you had to do was speed run the game, world record, yay.
Hmm.
But there were some good ones in there. I was able to get a few difficult ones to get, like Ghostbusters on NES, Die
Hmm.
Hard, Superman. Trying to think of other ones that stand out. The two CDI games, I was able to get records in both of those. There's probably others, and Tomb Raider was a good one. I was able to get the Tomb Raider max percent glitchless PS1 record. So very specific
Hmm.
category, but still, like, that was a game I didn't see being as fun. That was actually one of the longer trials. It took me, I think, over 110 hours to finish that trial, but you know, proud of each and every one of them, even when they were kind of silly. Like, I'm not gonna write home and brag about the Mary Kate and Ashley world record, but I mean,
I don't
it's
know.
still a
Sounds like
thing.
something to brag about. I'm impressed.
But
But
still, like, some of them were genuinely difficult to get and were stuff that I'm really proud of. Like Die Hard, for example, was kind of a niche game when I picked that up for the trials. I think there were like 14 people on the leaderboard. It wasn't very optimized, with the exception of like the top few times. And when I started learning it, I discovered that there was a faster way to route in the game. The way it works is that there's like a timer that you have to like run down, and then a certain character appears, and you have to get certain items in order to beat the game.
mhm.
And when uh, McLean's feet are bleeding, the timer goes faster because, like, when you're going up and down the stairwell, it's just saying, "Oh, his feet are bleeding," so it's taking him longer to go up the stairwell, so it wastes more time. Um, and I was able to figure that out, and it kind of gave the game a kick in the pants. My record was, I think, 214, and I think the record now is in the low 140s.
Hmm.
There's like a lot of people on that leaderboard now. That game really picked up steam. So like, even though I no longer hold that record, I'm proud of the fact that just something I just kind of found out on a fly one afternoon made that game kind of hot for a little while, and it really helped that speed run to get a lot more optimized. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's a short game then if it's only like 2 minutes. Hmm.
Yep.
That's
Oh, it's a reset fest.
oh, it sounds
It's
like it. If a game's that short, it's a reset, like
yeah.
battlegrounds. That's
There's
just how it is.
a lot of RNG. And even when you get the good RNG, it's still pretty tough. But it's a fun one though. It's a fun little challenge that somebody could pick up like as a 12-hour challenge game and put up a respectable time and enjoy it. Like
Hmm.
that's again kind of like the takeaway I had from the trials. Just each game has its own uh approach that you could have to it that just makes it a special experience.
Yeah. So does James know you've done this?
Yes.
Oh.
I actually reached out to him the day before it started
Hmm.
because I wanted him to know that I was doing it, but also just, hey, I want to make sure you're not like offended or weirded out by this. Like, you cool with it? Like, I'm going to do this. He goes, oh man, it's a cool challenge. Good luck.
Cool.
Um, since then, he has contributed a little bit of content. He helped me with, he made me a custom clip for my channel intro, which is now a bit alert. But
Hmm.
um, as of right now, that's the extent to our working relationship. But I am planning on hopefully working with him in the future. If it doesn't happen, I understand. He's a big name. He's a busy man. But I'm hoping that we might be able to do something together. But I suppose we'll see. But for now, yeah, I know he's aware. I know the Screenwave guys are aware. Um, it'd be cool if that could, somehow manifest it, some new content or some new collaborations. But we'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I forgot you had that like custom channel. I don't know if it was like a trailer or something, but it was like a couple minutes with a bunch of people
Yeah,
talking. He was in there for a split second. What were you thinking about doing this trial thing? Yeah,
yeah,
classic. It's cool though. That it got quite the name. Can't believe how long it took though. Doing the
yeah.
one thing for 5 years. How long did TMR's NES Mania last? Was it?
So I know that wrapped up. I want to say either into 2016 or early 2017. I know because it was when I was still pretty fresh on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I only saw him do Mario 3 live. Everything else was before that. That was the finale, was Mario
Mm-hmm.
3. It was a huge thing. He was on the front page and had tens of thousands of people watching. It was pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah.
But I know it was at least a few years because I've seen videos of him like when he did Akari Warriors. I think that was like his 100th or so game, and that was from 2014.
Mm.
So it took him about at least 3 or 4 years to do that. It's a lot different
Yeah.
than like whenever people compare my project to his. I'm like, it's kind of a different beast because there's a there's a way different challenge of picking up, with a couple exceptions. Like he had to literally learn the piano for
Mm-hmm.
the Miracle Piano game, which is just incredible to me that he had the commitment to do that. He could have just save stated through it and figured out how to press the buttons or whatever. But
Yeah,
he
that's
uh, he
sick.
genuinely learned the piano. But a lot of them he would just play them like you would if you were going to the store and bought the game back when it came out. You have nothing but the manual. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is impressive in a way different way than learning a speed run. And like in some ways, I do feel proud that what I did was very unique, very difficult, and I am very proud of it. But also, there's I do envy people who are really good at like blind playthroughs and stuff like that, and it makes me wonder how my skills would translate to something like that in the future. And that's something I intend to try. I want to try doing stuff more like that because I don't know, it's a different aspect, but it's a much different challenge too. Like that's a challenge of being able to map, being able to learn, being able to figure things out, to be able to improv. Whereas in speedrunning, it's a way different monster. It's more about that perseverance and that commitment and that ability to just put your head down and just keep on going no matter what.
Hmm. Yeah, I wasn't trying to compare the two projects, but I saw it as like this project took so long, it was longer than someone could beat the entire NES library. Like, I mean, that's a big project.
Yeah.
That was like my way of
I,
comparing the time spent.
when I initially came up with the idea for it, so I had when I first started speedrunning, I did Zelda 1,
Hmm.
then I learned Zelda 2, and I got the sub 80, which was like at the time that's like the it's like, every game has that one
Hmm.
milestone time that everyone wants to hit. But nobody had ever gotten those two milestones, the sub 30 in Z1 and the sub 80 in Zelda 2, and also the sub 90 in A Link to the Past. And so in April of 2018, I did that, and I was kind of like, now what? I was kind of sick of Zelda at that time. I was like, what am I going to play now, man? I don't know. So I was looking at other games, and I was just kind of trying to figure something out. And I dreamt about the nerd inviting me into his house to speedrun a Virtual Boy game. And I was kind of like, that was kind of a cool dream. But like in the dream, I remember him saying like, "Oh, you can do this game. Well, what about all these other crappy games?" And I hit up one of my mods in the morning. Like I was still like half asleep. I was like, I should try to run every AVGN game. Okay, I'm going back to bed night. And um, it was kind of just one of those like weird ideas that I kind of came up with. But originally, the reason I bring that up is I was gonna do the original list was 138 games, and I was gonna do all 130 in a single calendar year.
Mm.
And I got to, ironically, Mario 1, which was game 31, in about 2 months before I gave up. It was impossible.
Hmm.
I was sacrificing everything for the trials at that point, like my own hygiene. Like I was eating fast food every meal because I would get off of work, come home, stream, or learn a game, and then go to bed, do it again. And like there was no time to lose. So like I was sacrificing my own health, my own sanity. Like I was forgetting to pay bills. I was just, it
Mm.
was bad. That balance was something that I had to learn again. 'Cause I took myself way too serious. Like, oh, I got to go hardcore, man. Go hard or go home.
Hmm.
That changed during the trials, and definitely, I'm glad it did because that mentality is good in some circumstances, but it can be self-destructive in others. And if I had tried to finish that, it was going to end badly. So
Yeah, yeah. I don't like putting time limits on things. I usually eh, always ends poorly, so
yeah,
it's nice to stretch it out. And what? So you did 200 and you were planning on originally doing most of that in 1 year and it ended up taking 5. Yeah. A good idea if
yeah.
I
I mean,
say
there were
so
there were a
myself.
few breaks.
Mhm.
Like there were a couple times I took some breaks, either because work was crazy or like I did a couple big 20 races. I had some GDQ events that I planned for. Last year we were attempting to get the Speedrun Hall of Fame going.
Mm.
Some other things like that that took time away from my ability to do the trials. But this has been my main focus, and it's kind of weird that you know when you're a streamer or a content creator, you always want to think about what you're making and also what's next. You got to keep the content flowing.
Mhm.
I've always had content ready to go, and it might sound like it's like, oh no, what am I going to do next? But no, it's kind of opened up the creative juices a bit because now I'm like, I don't have that roadmap predetermined anymore.
Mhm.
Now I have the freedom to do whatever I want, but with all these experiences under my belt. And that I think is like really exciting for me, to be able to make new content, take on new challenges, and I don't usually get bored and stay bored very long. So I'm sure I'll come up with something really crazy or stupid like the trials. But until then, I'm having fun, just kind of enjoying the lull after finishing that project.
Yeah, definitely. No, just do whatever. Plenty of time, plenty of resources. I'm excited. You mentioned the Speedrun Hall of Fame. Should that feel like that's a pretty big deal too?
It is a project we were working on last fall winter. Um, Unfortunately, it's kind of on hiatus at the moment, just mostly due to financial reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We do plan on bringing that up again at some point. We wanted to try to get it working with maybe Games Done Quick or
Mm.
another group like that, so that maybe we could have the name to back us a bit. But that is something we worked on. We wanted to create a place where we could celebrate the history of speedrunning and the just the speedrunners that came before us, and to be able to give them a place where they can shine. It's a lot of work and it takes a lot of money, so we're hoping to get that thing off the ground. As of right now, it's kind of on hiatus, but that is something that we're planning on coming back to relatively soon.
Yeah. So, kind of like, what is it like?
The premise of the Hall of Fame was basically where we could celebrate runners who have done significant contributions to speedrunning that would be voted on by their peers.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a place like, there's so many speedrunners just in Mario 1, for example, like
Mm.
that Andrew G, Darbian, just two examples right off the top of the head that I associate as like the Mario 1 runners that I remembered when I got into streaming, who neither of them really actively run the game anymore. Um, and the idea came to me when last year I was talking to somebody, or maybe 2 years ago. Good God, time is flying.
Yeah, it does
Um,
that.
but I was talking to somebody about Mario 1, and I mentioned Andrew G, and they didn't know who Andrew G was.
Oh no.
And I was like, really? And I thought about that, and I'm like, I've seen that before in Zelda 1 with like Darkwing Duck. Like, people don't
Mm-hmm.
know who he is because he doesn't actively run the game anymore.
Mm.
And that to me is a travesty.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't really have that preservation. So like, to me, that's something I want. I want to have the ability to celebrate the not just the accomplishments, but the legacies of these speedrunners that made the communities as popular and as the speedruns as optimized as they are. Because you think of a game and you think of that one person that you associate with it, like for example Ninja Gaiden. For the longest time it was Arcus.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't had the record now for over a year, but you still think of Arcus. But if he doesn't run the game or get the record back after a while, maybe that changes to like the
Mm-hmm.
Retro Runner or whoever else runs the game after him. And that legacy shouldn't be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
You can do the same thing with every speedrun you can think of, that has those people that came before, and like, it would be a shame if that information's lost to time. As I get older, I'm not going to be in speedrunning forever.
Mm-hmm.
What about my legacy? Is anyone going to remember that? And like, what about the people I mentor, when they move on? So I do think it's something that we should take relatively seriously, as far as like thinking about that future and how we're going to keep those legacies and memories and accomplishments in a place where we can celebrate them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted the Speedrun Hall of Fame to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's a super cool project and idea. I really hope that works out because, one thing I like about Somebody Solve videos is like preserving that history, especially to like a wide audience now. But like, now people know who Matt Turk is. People know, Darkwing Duck was in the Zelda video. Andrew G's shown up a lot. So in that way, but yeah, I guess unless you watch those, there's no way to like have it solidified somewhere. So, but that the Speedrun Hall of Fame also does like some more fun like streaming stuff too. I've seen
Yeah.
like some game shows.
Yeah. Again, we're kind of on hold at the moment. We do have a really cool show that we're pitching to somebody right now, and that's all I can say. But
Mm,
again, just mostly the amount of money it took to run everything, along with the amount of time it took.
mm-hmm.
We didn't have the budget to hire out and get staff or anything like that, so a lot of us are kind of just trying to get ourselves back on our feet after a pretty tough uh, years. I mean, like COVID's been over for a while now, and yet some of us still haven't quite rebounded. But or I guess you know what I mean. COVID's not over, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
you know, normalcy's kind of come back. So like a lot of people have gotten back to their jobs. A lot of people have gotten back to their ways of life, and some of those, myself included, are just starting to get that. So it's something that I definitely want to return to once the time is right, or we can get the right people behind us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, money is hard, so I
Mm-hmm.
understand. Ugh. I hate money. I hate having to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it sucks.
yeah. But hopefully some money becomes less of a problem and cool projects can take off and I don't know, help someone understand like why this person or this thing is important that's new because yeah, that's very just important to all of speedrunning is to remember because it's so easy to forget, especially with how fast-paced moving it is, especially now. You know someone the next day, the next one day, the next day it's like, who?
Yep.
Ugh.
And it happens so quick, especially in some of these really optimized games, like Mario 1 being another great example, or Mario 64, Link to the Past, Super Metroid. There's so many games that have such enormous communities, and some of them, there's so many people involved that I don't think those legacies are in danger. But like just one example is Metroid on the NES. A lot of the strategies and a lot of the routing and discoveries that we know today that are in the world record runs by today's top runners were all trailblazed by Metroid McFly, who's a retired speedrunner who doesn't have anything. All his speedruns are gone. He made them all private.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have them on speedrun.com for his own personal reasons. But that legacy is completely gone now. And
Mm-hmm.
those new folks that come into Metroid may not know who he is or what he did to make that speedrun so special. And that to me is, regardless if it's his own choice or not, is still just a real shame in that preservation of at least his contributions
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be forgotten. Of course, assuming he doesn't, you know, want that stuff gone. But um, yeah, like just that's another example of just somebody that did so much for his community, and I hope people don't forget him.
Well, at least there is the Metroid summoning salt video then that talked about
Mm-hmm.
him plenty, so that's how I knew about him, so it worked for me. Surely it's worked for others. Because, yeah, it's a shame whatever decision prompted that happened, but at least Metroid's like just bigger than it's ever been now.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and there's
yeah.
so many cool randomizers now. The Z1M1 is a lot of fun to watch. I'm not very good at Metroid on NES, even though I speedrun it in the trials. I'm not very I'm not very good at it. So like the randomizer kicks my butt, but it's still kind of cool, you know. Like randomizers another way, like what we were talking about earlier with speedrunning, just having a way to experience a game basically infinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many different ways that you can play a game over and over and over. And another good thing that I hope Nintendo never takes down, because if they
Mm.
do, then there's gonna be a lot of angry people.
Yeah. Well, there'll always be someone ready to preserve whatever and have it available, so I'm not too worried. You know what's funny? I just saw this today, but I recently got a new 3DS XL. I had a really old 3DS, but I wanted that portable thing. I did the thing that's surprisingly easy to do to it. So now I can, do whatever I want with it. Apparently today, Nintendo released an update to like fight it on the 3DS, a completely dead system that I don't give a shit about.
Wow.
Really, an update came out today to like prevent stuff. And that what you mentioned that and it's like, yep, they do try. For whatever reason, they are trying to prevent people from playing their shit. I don't know.
Yet you can't go right now on your Switch and play them. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
Like they only release a certain amount of things, so you're like, well, I have the old console you don't support anymore. I'll play it this way. No, no, you won't.
mm,
It's
I'm
ridiculous.
sure I'm sure someday we'll have a flash card on the 3DS or something like that. And when that happens, they probably already exist because I
Yeah,
used to have an R4 card
yeah. They're called
for the
SD
DS.
cards. Don't. That's what
Yeah,
they're called. So I've got it all figured out. Yeah,
but
it's the older systems that like need the actual EverDrive stuff,
yeah, yeah.
more
I
modern
forgot
stuff.
the SD card on that.
Yeah.
It shows you how much I play my 3DS. I'm looking right at it. I got mine's the hard modded one. I did the Katsu Kitty mod on it a long time ago. So
Yeah.
I have homebrew available on it too, but I don't ever play it. It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a good console. I should play it more often.
I've been playing mine a lot more because it's also a DS, and I mean, there's some good stuff there. And actually, there's homebrew that you can stream your 3DS capture over Wi-Fi. You don't
Mhm.
need a capture card or anything. It doesn't work for the DS though. Like if you play a DS thing, it requires the 3DS to be booted. If you go into DS
Oh,
mode, like it doesn't run the same. But I mean, that's cool. Uh, because capture cards are so fucking expensive for that system. And well, I don't know about DS, but 3DS especially. So I'm glad that's an
they
option,
like
but Nintendo's sure trying to prevent that from being an option. I'll say that.
why why don't they just make like how hard would it be for them? And the answer is not at all
Mm.
to release a dock that you could just plug your 3DS into with a controller port and call it good.
Mm-hmm.
They could make. I mean, it wouldn't be a huge seller, but it would be a big enough seller and probably would cost them very. I mean, it's basically a Switch dock. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
But they won't do it because Nintendo. So
Well, yeah,
maybe.
they don't care about the 3DS anymore. Unless modders are doing stuff, then oh, now we
Yep.
care. Let's release an update today. But yeah,
It's
it's
ridiculous.
wild. Like it's like they're trying to stop their history from being preserved unless they're preserving it themselves, but they're not going to release it unless they're like they'll choose the 10 NES games for their online service. That's about it. I don't know.
It's a
It's
shame.
wild. I'm glad so many people preserve stuff. They're the real heroes, because Nintendo sure as
Yeah.
hell won't. And I think some other game companies are much better about it. But I mean, the other day, like a mod for a game to like have online support with working servers, in a game that's completely dead, got shut down by some other company. Like, no, no, can't do that. So keep our game
Mhm.
dead, please. We don't care about you. I don't get that mindset. I never will.
Yeah. I hope they. I hope that they chill a little. They never will,
They never will, but yeah.
but at least we're still trucking along, and like they leave us alone for the most part. They don't come after us for having EverDrives and playing crowd controls and doing all this stuff yet.
Yet,
So
yes, yet
hopefully
is the
they just
key
let us do
word.
our thing. Yeah,
I mean,
because
you
like
used to not be able to make money at all off of like Nintendo thing. You had to have like the partnership program to even.
yep.
Thank God that's gone. But I mean, I still get. Well, never mind. That doesn't count. But yeah, it's crazy how like I guess technically like streaming games is illegal or something. But it's like
It's complicated. Yeah,
yeah, it's a complicated mess. But like it gives more eyes on your product. You want that. It's like free promotion essentially. I don't know why they
yeah.
care so
They're.
much.
I think it's a control thing, or
Yeah.
maybe the Mario movie from back in the day like haunted them so much that they just are afraid or something. I don't know. Um, I do know that I'm glad we are, at least for the 7 years I've been on Twitch, they're kind of just letting us do our thing. And I'll be honest, the trials would not have been, even though I played most of, like 99% of the trials were on real hardware, real cart, real controller.
Hmm.
Um, they would have been a lot harder to do, if not outright impossible, without flashcards and emulators
Hmm.
and without all the different ways to practice. I mean, some of the games wouldn't be so bad, but like going through Symphony of the Night you know, you have to practice those glitches that are 20, 30, 40 minutes in, that are frame perfect, pixel perfect glitches. You know, like Superman 64, same thing. Like games like that where not being able to practice quickly
Hmm.
would have made it nearly impossible to speedrun at the level that the top runners can do.
Yeah.
And just at least in the terms of speedrunning and like randomizers, challenge runners, and stuff, like they haven't really messed with us too much. But
Hmm.
yeah, they need to they need to go worry about bringing back Star Fox or something, man. We need a
Yeah.
new Star Fox game, man.
Star Fox, F-Zero, just
Yeah, Star Tropics.
yeah, sure. Anything.
Yeah,
But they won't. We know it. Oh, it might not make the amount of money as a Mario game, so it's dead
or
now.
Pokemon
Sorry.
or Zelda,
Yeah. Sorry,
but then they'll
fans.
re-release. Yeah,
Yeah.
like here's Mario Kart, and I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Mario Kart, I like Smash, I like Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Those are fun,
Love them all.
but like I'm just saying, like creativity, man, bring it back. We
Yeah.
need to start that movement, man. I want to see some new IPs from the top developers. Like let us see the creativity. Like just Punch Out is just like
Oh my
such a
God,
cool idea.
yes.
Like yeah,
Exactly.
no, saying that right as Gruntiatus in chat is saying that because he's a top runner, and Punch
Mhm.
Out is such a cool idea. It's just an arcade styled punching or boxing game. Doesn't even follow the rules of boxing, and like really, it's
Mhm.
just a fun game. It's a fun experience. That's what Nintendo used to be about.
I mean, they did it
And
on the Wii, and that was a great game. I haven't played
Mhm.
it. Well, I briefly played it years ago, but I know it's a great game. I've seen it. I played it briefly, but so they did the arcade Punch Out, Super Punch Out, Dead Forever, Wii Punch Out. Oh, cool! You brought it back, and it's great. Dead Forever again.
yeah,
Okay, why are you this way? Uh,
because that's I don't know.
uh, uh,
Nintendo's weird, but at least they're not Konami. That much we can say.
mm,
Oh, don't get me started on Konami.
I won't. I mean, I don't really know, but I have a feeling it's not
Oh,
good.
just okay. I guess I got started on Konami. No,
No, go ahead.
no. The short version of it is they've kind of not really been making games anymore, and they've kind of started just really focusing on like they have an office in Vegas where I,
Mm,
I live in Vegas, and
mhm,
they um they have like a big staking in making slot machines and like gambling machines and stuff,
mm,
and they do so much because that stuff makes them quick, easy money.
mhm,
It's easy. It's easy. They don't make games anymore. They have all these wonderful franchises, and they don't do anything with it
mhm,
except for like the occasional Castlevania
mhm,
or like stuff like that. Metal Gear Solid, like occasionally, and it's just a shame because they were one of my favorite developers growing up. They always made great games, and now they're just a shadow of their former selves. They're chasing the quick buck, and it's just a shame because I go to any casino in Vegas, you see Konami everywhere, but you go to a game store and you don't see them anywhere. It's
mhm,
it's it's just very disappointing.
mhm.
So, I mean, at
Yeah.
least Nintendo's not that, because that would be heartbreaking.
Yeah. I don't see them ever doing that because they're just too big. They know what makes the money. They're smart on how they do gaming. They're not smart on how
Mm.
they do community at all, but they know how to make games and they know they make them well, so I don't see that ever stopping. And they're great at hardware too. I mean, they have the most creative ideas when it comes to hardware, I think. Like the
Mhm.
Wii, beautiful. The Switch, I mean, that started a whole docked undocked handheld motion. Steam Deck probably wouldn't have existed without it and all that. Like they know what they're doing
They've been
there, but
they've been on the forefront ever since I can remember.
mhm.
Started really with the N64. I mean, the N64 was the first console. I mean, it's not a great console. Like people always they
Yeah.
always shit on it. They always say, "Oh, the N64 sucks. The library sucks." First off, you had to be there.
Yeah.
But also,
It's not bad.
um,
It's not great. It's
first
not
home
bad.
console, first major home console, I should say. I mean, there might be exceptions.
Mhm.
To have 4 players without
Mhm.
any adapters, First home console to have analog joystick built into the controller, other than like the Atari or like stuff like that. First home console to have Rumble. You had to have the Rumble pack, but they were the first ones to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they tried to do a lot of other things, connecting the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance to their consoles, or like having the ability to trade in Pokemon. Like that was something that we didn't really have in
Mm-hmm.
gaming. You know, like having like I could take something you found in your game and you could give it to me to play in my game. That's cool.
That's sick.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. And like Nintendo's always been on the forefront of stuff like that. So it's always cool to see um the impact that they've had, like you mentioned with the Switch, and now the Steam Deck is out. Like the whole motion controls movement was
Mm-hmm.
because of Nintendo. Like they've always been at that forefront. So again, it's frustrating because they have that one thing about them that
Mm-hmm.
they need a PR person, somebody who's in touch with the community.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, my resume, I can send it to you. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm not, but
Yeah.
no, but hopefully they take a chill pill someday. It'd be nice to see, because otherwise they're my favorite game company, always have been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I said it before, but they know that they can treat the community as dog shit as they want, but they'll get away with it because they're the biggest innovators in gaming, and they make great games, and they know everyone's gonna buy their games. So get wrecked, nerds. I
Yep.
guess. I don't know. It's crazy.
It's the unfortunate reality of the situation. It just
Yeah.
sucks.
Yep. But it's important to talk about because change won't be made unless people keep complaining to them about it. But I mean, at this rate, I don't think we could complain forever, and I don't know if they'll ever do anything. But
Mhm.
I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, let's find a lighter topic. Uh, GDQ's fun. You've been to plenty of those, right?
Mhm. Yeah, like I don't know if we talked about it on the air or we were talking about it earlier, but
Yeah, a little bit.
unfortunately I will not be attending this SGDQ, which is starting right now if you're watching this on YouTube.
It is true.
Uh
Yeah, I'm there
Big, I know it's
right
big,
now.
like I know it's going to be big for you. You got to run in this year. I have a lot of friends who got runs in this year, and the games list is really good. It's the first time I'm missing it in person since 2018. The ones that are in person, I should say,
Hmm.
for reasons, and I'm gonna be sad. I'm looking forward to seeing this amazing games list though. And
Hmm.
other than your own run, are there any runs that you're like really excited about seeing?
I haven't looked at the game list too much. I briefly browsed it, but there's like a Mario Maker thing. It's ending with
Hmm.
that Super Metroid thing. Um, there's that Guitar Hero or Clone Hero. I mean, that was
Oh,
sick at
I hear about that one.
AGDQ 2020. So same
I didn't
guys,
hear about that
same
one.
same everything. So I'm excited for that. Um, I don't know. I don't watch a ton of variety when it comes to speedrunning. I should change that, but so I don't know. I don't go there to like watch runs. I go there to hang out.
Yeah.
So but there's definitely some stuff there. I'll browse it again and I'll pick the ones I want to watch and I'll build my schedule around it. But yeah, there's other stuff I'd like to do there. There's a panel I want to see. The arcade's apparently back in full force. All their rooms are back. So plenty of stuff to
I
do.
cannot I cannot remember the name of the pizza place. And Ice Blue, if he sees this, is gonna kill me. I cannot
Mm,
remember the name of it. There's a really good pizza place that's walking distance from the hotel in Bloomington.
mm-hmm.
Bloomington, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I don't remember the name of it for the life of me. But if you're looking for a good place that's easy to get to, that's not super close. I mean, like obviously Fridays is like right there. Everyone always just goes to Fridays
yeah.
or Dairy Queen, and that gets old.
I should cut you off and say that it's not at that hotel this year.
Oh, they
It's
moved it. I did not know this.
Yeah, it's in downtown now,
Oh,
downtown
well then I take that
Minneapolis.
back.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe they have a chain down there or something. I don't know, but yeah, I was like, well, yeah, I don't know what's down there. I Was it the Hilton down there? I don't know. I think it's like the hotel that used to have it, and then they moved to that Bloomington one, DoubleTree, and now they're moving back. I don't know, but yeah, different hotel. So,
Well, hopefully it's a good experience because I did like that hotel.
oh, I
I
loved the
actually,
DoubleTree. Oh, it was so good.
yeah,
Venue was great.
I'm
And
kind
it'll
of
always
sad
have a
that it's.
special place in my heart. It's the first one I went to was HDDQ at that hotel. I think the first time it was there, 2018.
I remember my first GDQ was at the original, like not the original
Mm-hmm.
hotel for AGDQ, but the one that it was at for like 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Was the final one they did back in AGDQ 2018. That was my first GDQ.
Yeah.
And in 2019, they moved to that weird hotel that they had for the 1 year with the murder hallway.
Yeah, yep. I brought it up many times. Yeah, I was there. The murder hallway was fun.
Um, and it was cool. I mean, it was okay.
I liked that venue too.
Um,
I loved the once you get past the murder hallway, but uh the the practice room was just this big open room, giant ceilings. I mean, I guess the where they streamed the runs was a little cramped. Practice room, loved that. And then you went downstairs. There was that piano. All the rooms were laid out. The floors were soft. I loved the venue. But
mhm.
yeah, there was
Yeah,
only there
same
for a
here.
year, and then there was the snowstorm. So they had its problems, I guess. But it was good.
I do miss AGDQ being in the DC area. There was something about it that felt special.
Yeah,
They moved it to Florida, and then of course COVID and all that stuff. I don't know if they've decided where or when it's going to be. I know they usually announce it at the end of the previous one, so hopefully this year
yeah.
they can
Hopefully
announce it in person.
HDQ's back. I know it
Oh,
won't be
I,
in
I would
Florida though,
love, I would
because
love
fuck
to see it
Florida.
back in DC.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know where it's going, but yeah, I just hope it's not online. I know it was just online this year because they still had like a contract and they had to get out of it, so it was like big hassle. But hoping for the
Yeah,
best coming up.
I just I'm glad to see it's back. I'm glad to see that people are excited for it. I'm
Hmm.
glad to see the games list. A lot of my friends getting runs in for the first time. Like big shouts out to Jangle Storm, a good buddy of mine who's doing Beard Blade. Of course, Yelsrick and Chester, they got a really cool Gauntlet co-op run, which is going to be really exciting. They're going to be doing that together.
Oh well, I found something
Um,
else I'll watch then.
there's a lot of really good retro stuff this year, man. A lot of really good stuff, and like all my friends are gonna be there, and I'm heartbroken. And
Hmm.
so, if any of y'all are watching this at SGDQ, shut your phone off and go and hang out with your boys or your girls because how dare you? Like, do it for me because I'm not there and I'm sad. No, I'm just
Yeah. Yeah, I missed one when I started going to events again, 2019 SGDQ. Never want to do that again. I mean, unfortunately, money. I mean,
yeah.
I complain about money all the time because money sucks, but I guess you do need it to do cool things. So just
And also
unfortunate.
just time in general. Like, it's hard to make that kind of commitment twice a year.
Yeah,
It's
if
a
you have like
lot.
a full-time job, like you almost just can't do that. And that's what's unfortunate. It's kind of why I don't want a full-time job personally. Just so I just want a part-time job so I can still go to the events whenever I want, but it's all a pain to figure out. So, I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and I hope you live it up vicariously for me because
Yeah.
I'll be wanting to hear about all the different stories that everyone has and all the different cool experiences. Hopefully, all good stuff.
Yeah, it does seem like it'll be bigger than it was last year, so hopefully
Hmm.
that's the case. Um yeah, I know COVID still. There's still some action. Um
Hmm.
I'm glad that you can not wear masks when you're performing so people can like see you. It's a shame they announced it so recently that they
Late.
were changing that
Yeah.
policy. Yeah, that was a bit screwy, but yeah. Hopefully because I didn't get sick. So whatever they did is worked last time, so hopefully it works again.
GDQ last year, mask mandatory, and because of that, I didn't get sick. I didn't know anyone that got sick.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, GDQX, or sorry, TwitchCon,
Mm-hmm.
which happened just a few months later, um, was my first and only time I had confirmed COVID. I got it
Yeah.
from someone,
Mm-hmm.
and not a pleasant experience. I'm sure a lot of you can relate, but they didn't have they had mask checks at the door, but once you were in, everyone was taking their masks off.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was just walking around. There was like thousands of people there, and yeah, we still need to be careful. Is
Yeah.
all I'm saying. Like I don't want to preach to anyone. I'm not your dad. I just I personally think it's good that they're loosening it a little bit, but at the same time, they have it in their minds that they have to be careful. This isn't over. That they can't just, you know, let the completely let the hair down, because there's a lot of it's still out there, and there's a lot of people who are immunocomp. I can't speak.
I know what you're trying to say, at least.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a little fried.
I don't think I could say it either.
That are immunocompromised or that are high risk, and so having everyone staying safe. You want to play it safe is what I'm getting at. You're better to have those precautions in place rather than throw caution to the wind and get sick, because you never know, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I praise GDQ for how they run their events. Like,
mhm.
they just do everything correct. Because I don't want to shit on them, because I actually had a lot of fun. I went to PACE. It's the Global Speedrun Association's event. They're doing that I also have to go to because there's a Mario 1 tournament. But I did a run my first time on stage last year. And I mean, that event, like only 100 or so people went, so it's a lot more tight knit. Uh, went out and did a lot more things. I actually had like probably the most fun I had in an event there. But I will say, I got COVID, unfortunately.
Same thing.
So yeah, it's
GDQ's
just
doing something right.
they're doing something right, and I love them for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just
Well,
hoping
definitely.
things keep getting
Go ahead.
better. I just hopefully things keep getting better so these events can keep being normal.
Mhm.
Is all.
And to those that are going, I just be safe. Don't throw caution to the wind. Respect everyone that's around you, and just enjoy yourself. And uh, hopefully, everyone comes home safe and COVID free, and has an experience that I will be jealous of. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching the runs, hearing the stories, and uh, hopefully, it's a great experience for everyone.
Yeah. So what are some stories you have in the past from GDQs that you haven't mentioned yet?
Um, well, I mean, there was the snowstorm from a few years ago
Yeah,
that, like, I'm
AGDQ
living in the
2019.
desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in the desert, so seeing something like that was really cool.
Yeah,
I was
I
hanging out
missed
with
my
Marco for.
flight though, so wasn't a fan of that. Well, actually, it was a blessing in disguise. I should. This is a funny story, but I was supposed to leave a day early. So I get on the train, the metro, and I'm going, but the line to the airport wasn't working because of the storm. So you had to get off at this different stuff, get on a bus, and the bus ride was like an hour to the airport. I missed my flight by like 10 minutes. So I had to wait for the next day. So then I had to go home, or not home, but back to the hotel and just wait an extra day. So I got to see the end of the event, which is why it was cool. But that whole day of me just out in DC in the snowstorm, going to the airport and then back, and then the next day going back. Ugh, what an experience.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of flying. It doesn't bother me really, but I usually will find ways to relax at the airport that are, you know, okay. I drink a little bit,
Yeah,
and
okay,
then, like,
fair enough.
um, I went during that snowstorm, and I was like, oh no, my plane was the only one that seemed to be on time, and they were gonna leave.
Hmm.
So I got sloshed. I was like, I don't drink that much, so I'm a total cheap date. But um, I saw that my plane was still going. I'm like, I went up to the desk. I'm like, are you guys still taking off? And they're like, yeah, we're leaving in like 45 minutes. Everything's on time, and you're like, everything's good. And I'm like, I can't even see 50 feet past the plane right now. I
Hmm.
almost didn't want to go. I almost asked if I could delay my flight. But
Hmm.
I also didn't want to go back to the hotel and have to do the whole hey, goodbye everybody thing again,
You mean
and
what I
just I
did?
already had.
Yeah,
So I just had a few drinks at the bar and got sloshed and woke up. We were in the air. I was like, oh, thank God.
fair enough.
No, I don't know. Obviously, I've done some runs. I've seen some runs. I've been part of commentary. I got sick as a dog at AGDQ 2020, which I think was COVID, but I mean it's a lot of hearsay because it wasn't really as big back then, and um, really was kind. It probably wasn't. It was probably something else. But
There were like hardly any COVID cases
mm,
back then. That was January 2020.
yeah, so like outside of like just small stuff, like I really just enjoy sitting in the practice room and hanging out with folks, or going to like bars or restaurants with people that you've only met online,
Hmm.
or being able to like sit down and hang out with or play video games with some of the best gamers in the world that again you don't really have that opportunity. Like I remember at the time I had never met Cool Kid before, and in AGDQ 2018 um, we uh, we had breakfast as part of the hotel stay. They included breakfast.
Hmm.
And so I woke up early one day and I'm like, I'm gonna go and grab a bagel or something. It's why not? Why
Hmm.
not? So I go sit down at a table. Nobody's awake. It's like 5 in the morning. I work construction, so I'm used to waking up really early. Um, so I'm there. I'm eating, and all of a sudden I look up. There's Cool Kid. He's one. Like, hey, can I sit down with you? And he just sits down. He's the coolest. He's a cool kid. He
He
just
is.
sat down and we had a conversation. And like, he's a real down to earth guy. You never know when that's gonna happen. And like at that same AGDQ, we were all in the practice room and just uh, myself, Darkwing Duck, and a few other Z1 runners, and RC Drone, a few others. We were all just hanging out. We were like, let's do a Z1 race.
Hmm.
So we sat down and hooked our consoles up. And after the race, I stood up and turned around, and watching me and a few of the others were Lack Attack and TMR and Darbian and a few others. They were all just in a line watching us race. And like that was the first time I'd met any of them.
Hmm.
And just real overwhelming, but at the same time they're all really awesome and down to earth, and just really it was a the kind of experience that you quickly adapt to, but it's overwhelming at first.
Hmm.
And being able to meet all these really awesome people, and just having this experience where you're in this building with everybody, and like because it's something you could probably relate to in real life. When you tell people, oh, I'm a speedrunner, or like even just a streamer on Twitch, they kind of just roll their eyes. But when you say I'm a speedrunner, they're like, what's that? I beat games as fast as I can. Oh,
Why?
like they're like, they don't get it.
Hmm.
And being able to be in a building with that many people, and they all know what you're doing, they all
Hmm.
know it, they all love it. It's like something you can't reenact any other way.
Hmm.
It's so special. And I'm glad that this is such a successful event, not only to raise money for a good cause, but because it is an opportunity for us to be able to be with our friends and do cool things, like have a board game with a bunch of speedrunners and streamers that you've known for years but you've never been able to hang out with, or go have a fun meal, or go see, like I know guys were doing panic rooms, or going to dinner, or going to see movies. We went to the Mall of America and just spent 8 hours in the Mall of America just hanging out. There's like baseball games that people go to, and like there's so many different experiences because you're going to a new city that there's tons of things to do, and you get to experience these with those peers. I don't know, man. It's a very special experience.
Hmm. I'd say if you're like passionate about the hobby and you've never been to one, going to your first one would be a life-changing experience. It was for me. I can easily say that. So, and I think it's that way for
Absolutely.
almost everyone. But yeah, it'll be a little overwhelming, I guess, especially if you look up to people as like these great humans or something, even though we're all just humans again. So, like,
You'll very quickly realize that we're all just a bunch of old guys playing video. Well, not all of us are old, but most of us are just a bunch of old guys playing video games. And the just you're around friends. You're around people that have the same, at least one thing in common with you, which
oh,
is like an instant icebreaker. It's like we're all there for the same reason.
mhm.
Well, for the most part, for the same reason, and to raise money for a good cause at the same time. It's a very pure and very humble experience that can't be replicated. Like I've been to Calithons, I've been to TwitchCons, I've never been to any other big events, but I've seen Pace, I've seen ESA, I've seen these other events,
Hmm.
and it's just not the same. Like there's something about GDQ that just feels otherworldly. It feels like the Super Bowl of speedrunning. It's the
Hmm.
best way to describe it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more people that go to that. You can just hang out with a bunch more. It's a bigger event, but I kind of like some of the smaller events. When it's more tight knit like that, you can get like more connections. You have more of a reason to go out, especially with like people you normally wouldn't. Because the one not problem, but like GDQ has like cliques, you know. You have
Mhm.
your group of people that run this game, your group of people. They interconnect and twine, but you know, not always. So if you're more like forced to hang out with people, like it's easier to like just meet new people in that way. But yeah, GDQ in terms of like at least maybe not hanging out, but just meeting everyone, hanging out with almost everyone you know, and it they have all the different rooms and stuff other events don't have, more opportunities for
I mean,
fun and stuff. That is what makes it like the event.
the panels and the obviously the main event. I mean, it's kind of like you were saying earlier. Like you go to your first one and you're like, I can't wait to see all these runs, and then you realize later on you missed them all because you
Yeah.
forgot.
No,
Um,
you go there thinking, "Oh, I'll just watch all these runs." Then you realize, "Oh wait, you don't go here to watch the runs. You go here to
nope.
do everything else."
That's what the Twitch VODs are for.
Mhm.
No, there's just the feeling of again, like everyone there has something in common with you, and um, when you get there at first, I mean, my big advice I'd give to anyone who's going for the first time is hopefully you're not already there because you're watching this on YouTube, but no, find a few people that you know, find some things that you can do as like backups. You know, like okay, if everyone's busy or everyone's gone and I'm alone, what can I do? Maybe it's as simple as just put a console down. You never know who might come up to you. Um, the way I met JC, for example, I was just in the practice room and he sat down next to me and he saw me playing Zelda 1. He's like, hey, can I learn how to screen scroll real quick? I taught him how to screen scroll. So he's like, hey, I'll teach you how to do the blob boost and clip out in the clip drop or the I forget what they call it in Castlevania 2. And just now we're friends. Like all these years later, we're friends because of that one experience. Kind of opened the door and broke the ice.
Mhm.
And you find that as you just hang out and get to know people, by the end of your first event, you're getting invited to dinners. You're getting invited to hang out with people, play board games, go to the pool, do whatever they're doing. And now here I am thinking about all the people I'm not going to see, and it's making me all sad. But
Mhm.
you go and like suddenly you have so many options because you've been to a few of these, and like it becomes this just constant fun. I don't know how else to put it. It's
Mhm.
just God, I wish I was going.
Yeah. I almost feel bad talking about it, knowing you can't go. It's like, should
Oh,
we
it's
be
okay.
okay.
I know I'm probably gonna go to the next one just because of how awful I feel right now. So I'm probably
Fair
gonna find a way
enough.
to go to the next one no matter
Mhm.
what. But I'm really excited for folks that are going, and I hope it's as good of experience as it always has been for me.
Mhm. Yep. Um what runs have you had at events?
My first run was Panic Restaurant for the NES, which I had to buy a real cart for. Which, if you know anything about that, that is an expensive game. I actually just recently sold that cart, which breaks my heart, but times are tough.
Mhm.
But that was I had because back in the day, I don't know if they still do it, but at the time, GDQ required you to play real hardware, real cart, real controller, no emulator, no flash carts. I think they've loosened that up a little bit, but that was my first run. And then that same GDQ, these were both in 2018. I did a 100% no up base Zelda 1 race against BTs and Random Effect. I died in level 3, but I was able to crawl back and get second place.
Hmm.
And then in GDQX 2019, I did the Fester's Quest run that I was talking about earlier. I ran The Last Ninja on the NES, which if you've
Oh
never seen that
no.
game
Oh
before,
no.
oh, Dad Bod Ninja in full effect. That's a fun speedrun though.
Mm.
That's a fun one. And then I got to race Rooslugs and Swordless, and that one I was able to win. Rooslugs actually had me. He had me by about 30 seconds, but he died right at the end. Um, and then I've also done commentary for a couple races. The 2019 SGDQ Zelda 1 randomizer race, and then the AGDQ 2020 relay race for Zelda, which I was one of the organizers for. Originally was going to be in the race, but it didn't quite work out, so I withdrew
Hmm.
and just kind of helped them get the race off the ground because I wanted to. A lot of my friends were in it, and I had already done runs of GDQ, so I gave my spot to Green Mario, who at the time was a good runner, but I had a better PB than him, and now he's far and away the best Zelda 1 runner in the world, and like I don't know how much impact that had on him, but I like to think it had a little,
Hmm.
like he he's a good dude and a really good speedrunner and really nice guy. I just like I said, the Zelda 1 finals for the tournament were just this past Wednesday. I was able to finish second place in that tournament to Green Mario, and
Hmm.
just a gracious guy to compete against, and a lot of fun. That was a sincerely fun race. He is the better Zelda speedrunner and deserved to win that thing, and nobody could deserve it more than he could and does.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, I got a little off topic.
nah, I mean, it's important to. This show runs on off topic, so uh, if we didn't go off topic, these episodes would be like half an hour. Let's just be honest. So, but speaking of topics, I'm running out of topics. You got anything?
I can mention if it's okay to talk about a few things.
Talk
So
about
I
anything.
am by the time you guys see this, unless you're watching this live, this upcoming, or actually tonight in about 4 hours, I will be joining Gruntiatis at twitch.tv/games done quick to do
Mm.
the time capsule hotfix. We're going to be doing a co-op Beavis and Butthead run. We did that for the AVGN trials and had a lot of fun with it.
Hmm.
So that'll be a VOD you guys can check out if you want to see that. Also, I'm still continuing on with speedrunning Zelda 1, which I've recently been kind of reinvigorated on. Trying for the 100% no up A world record, and also just pushing any percent as much as I can, trying to hopefully get it to a 27. I'm also derusting A Link to the Past a bit, but more than my speedrunning, because like speedrunning right now to me is something I'm kind of just rolling with the punches. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like I'm having fun with it, and I don't really have an agenda. I don't have a roadmap in front of me for the first time in 5 years. So it's kind of like I like that. I'm being flexible, but all of the content and experiences that I've had have given me a ton of things I want to talk about. And so right now I'm working on my first full length like the speedrunning documentary that is going to be focused on Polybius. Talking about my experiences with that and my feelings and thoughts of that game and that speedrun. And I plan on making a lot of content like that in the future on my YouTube, which, if you're interested, my Twitch page and my YouTube page are both JSR underscore. So easy to find me.
They're on the stream too. You can
Yeah.
see them right under your
So,
face. There they are. Yeah, right there.
um,
Exactly.
no, I'm hoping to have some new content out like that. Because I've always wanted to make content creation a thing, like I've always wanted to do that, but with that roadmap ahead of me, always looming, it always made me feel guilty. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I can go do what I want, but I really need to do this next AVGN game. Keep it going, just keep it going. And for the longest time, that was all I could do was just keep it going. And now it's like, oh, not only did I keep it going, but I kept it going to the point where I'm done. And it's like, I can't believe it's over. It still has not really truly sunk in yet. It's been a week and a couple days, and it still does not feel like it's over, but it is. And like, I'm super proud of it. But I'm sure I'll come up with some crazy, kooky project here and pretty soon because I tend to, when I don't have something like that, I tend to get bored, and when I get bored, I get creative. So I'll come up with something cool.
Yeah. I'm excited for the Polybius video. I want to see what that game is like.
I warn you, if you're sensitive to flashing lights and colors, you're gonna want to maybe watch a little bit of it and see how it affects you, or maybe don't watch it at all. But no, it's definitely it was an experience that I wish I could say I was eager to forget, but I don't think I ever can. And that's why I decided to make that my first topic. But lots of experiences from the trials I want to talk about. So I'm gonna have a lot of really cool videos that I'm gonna be hopefully making here soon.
Well, looking forward to it then. I guess we can wrap it up here. Sounds like this is a natural conclusion point. If there's any questions in chat, feel free to ask them. I don't think I've mentioned that yet, but any other future plans? Know it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah. There's a few games from the trials I want to go back to. Definitely. No real urgency to it, which is kind of nice.
Hmm.
Outside of that, just kind of rolling with the flow. Trying to get myself back into all of the different communities and just um, further just the legacies of these games that have changed my life, because Twitch and speedrunning have really made an impact on me. And so I just want to give it back,
Hmm.
keep the community growing, keep it positive, and just help the new folks that come in to become the best speedrunners they can with all the knowledge and experience that I and we have under our belts now that we were able to take from those before us. I
Hmm.
think that's the big thing, is like that's the legacy we can have as speedrunners. Like the Hall of Fame is great, and I'm glad that's a thing, but I think more than that, just giving back to the community is the number one thing that I want to do. So that's one of many things that I'm thinking about.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. That was a fun discussion about the speed running.
I appreciate you having me, man. I really do, and I wish you the best of luck at GDQ, dude. I'm really excited for your run.
Yeah, I'm anxious as hell though. It's on the last day. It's Mario 1. There's a donation incentive. Oh my god. There's a paw in the air. Oh.
Don't stress it, own it.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
what you do, man. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna kill it.
the dog's waving goodbye.
Oh yeah, he's kind of. Oh, his paw's not on camera anymore. There it is. Uh, He's
All right.
sleeping next to me on the couch. He's a good boy. Oh, that's a thing I could talk about. I'm
Mhm.
planning. I haven't really told anybody about this yet. So if you
Ooh,
stuck to the end of the video, he's gonna be
exclusives.
the world's first speedrunning dog.
Oh, how so?
I've been I've been training him to press buttons on command in a specific way, and I have a game in mind that with simple commands and a few treats, I should be able to get him to speedrun it.
Wow.
He's a very smart dog, so I hope it works out. I'm gonna start training him on that very soon. So it's something I've literally been training him for since he was a puppy, and he's nearly 3 now. So I think he's ready.
That's very interesting. I don't know what it could be, but I'll leave it to mystery. I'll tune in and see what it is when it happens.
It'll be relatively soon, hopefully. So
That's
if it
cool.
does happen, you'll see and hear more about that. Obviously in the socials and on my
Yep.
Twitch.
All right. Looking forward to it. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. If you're watching live, I'll be uploading this on Sunday this week because, this is the Sunday show, but I had to record some episodes in advance because I'll be gone for 2 Sundays. GDQ. If you're watching on YouTube, there will be another episode next week. Be sure to subscribe. Follow the Twitch if you want to see these live, like these people below me, Pog people. And that's about it. Follow JSR. Socials are on screen, will be in description, all the usuals, and have a good one. Take care.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye bye.